Uh, hey, there's a few of you here. It's the weekend. I'm excited about the stuff that I've been working on this week. Hopefully my audio and everything is coming through. All right, audio is the hardest thing for me to get right. I think I have a good mic. I just don't think I have a good place for it. So I'll figure that out at some point. So this week, I'll scroll back here. This is what I worked on, this idea of, I do these live streams, and I like to just brain dump and think out loud. That's what I'm practicing. And the idea was, I'm going to subscribe to these YouTube events. And when I start a new stream, like just now, I started a new stream, and actually it probably fired. Let's watch this. If I go over here to my thing, look at, I have this application, this listener, and since I just started a stream, I got this event. I just got this event, right? Here's our time, 23:23. You can see it 9 minutes ago, where I created the stream before I even went live, but I got this little event that says, here's the video ID, here's the title of what I put in when I started it. This is me, this is my channel, etc. But I got an event. What I want to do is at the end of a stream, what I'd like to do is, my friend Duan made this project where you feed it a YouTube video ID, and it goes and it pulls down a transcript, right? So given so not all this is Spring AI. We're using Spring AI to integrate with OpenAI or Bedrock or whatever. So the idea, hey, you do a video on YouTube. I'm not a big fan, or it's just not my strength. I'm a geek. I'm a programmer. So I want to be able to reach more. But most of my videos, I don't do thumbnails like I have here. Most of my videos, I don't. Once I'm done streaming, I'm done. But maybe this is going to help you. Maybe this will be something that's cool where, hey, we do a video, we get that ID, and then let's go over here and grab the transcript. When we're done with the video, grab the transcript, generate a summary of what was talked about, maybe a little description. I don't know if those are the same. Maybe put it into chapters, like, hey, where do we talk about Kubernetes? Where do we talk about Zipkin? And have it create chapters for me, but otherwise put in SEO tags and generate a thumbnail. Based on the overall theme, generate a thumbnail. Based on the summary of the show, generate a thumbnail. Do this automatically. That's what I'm trying to do. So that's what I've been working on, and it was fun. So now it's Sunday. I'm excited about next week, and I got some ideas on how we're gonna do this. So one of the things that's on my mind is I have this concept of how I deliver things. I'm delivering things to my laptop, to my box here. So this is my develop environment or stage. It's live, it's out there connected. It's not the permanent home, but while I'm working on it, while I'm still iterating on it, it's on my laptop. And then it'll go to Raspberry Pis that are up in my closet. That's production. But I got a little bit of work. And one of those things that I believe is you need to have Zipkin. So when I created the project, I definitely added Zipkin. I wanted to see a trace, and I want to see a span. So now when I deploy it, you might see it here. It should say hey, I failed to connect to Zipkin. Maybe it didn't. It should have, right? Because it should have said, where is Zipkin? Let me go to one. I want to go to the head of this. Do you see anything? Because I don't have Zipkin deployed. So I expected, I hit 0 to go to the tail. I expected where it would say, hey, I couldn't connect to Zipkin. Let me hit one of these other URLs on this app, and you can hit it too. Here's the project that we built live. We worked on it live, fun. We'll dig into it a little bit, but I've deployed it to my little computer here. And I got some help, but I want to hit a couple of other URLs. So you can go and visit https / YouTube listener. Here's the docs. Let's see if the docs causes that Zipkin when I actually need to do a trace. No. Maybe it's actuator info. That's, we're seeing the version, and I also deployed actuator health. It should say it's up. All right, production ready things. But what I thought I was going to be seeing here was the couldn't connect to Zipkin, where it's trying to look at localhost. And am I thinking about a different project? Or did I disable it? Which is very possible. So either way, I want to deploy Zipkin. And in order to do that, I'm messing with Flux. This is how I deploy things. So the way that I have it right here, this is my K3D cluster that's on my machine. I've got multiple machines, and there's lots of different ways of configuring things, but I don't want to get into like the nuts and bolts of things. I want to have configuration in a Git repo like it is, and I want to deploy it. So what I did was I made this open Zipkin. I said, hey, deploy this. And that points to this other repository, this other directory. So my infrastructure directory is here. These are the things that are on the menu for the clusters that I'm operating in my data centers. I use that term very loosely. These are the things that are on the menu. One of those things is OpenZipkin, and right now I'm choosing to deploy OpenZipkin to K3D Juice so that I can get these production ready things from my Spring Boot apps. So I pointed over here to OpenZipkin, and now I just made this a few minutes ago. And in here it says, oh, I see you've got a customization and you would like to deploy this file, this helm.yaml, which has a little bit more information. So inside of helm.yaml, I'm saying, hey, I'm going to create this new thing in this namespace, OpenZipkin. I'm going to add a Helm repository. So just like you would do Helm repository right here, and we'll do this together. So it says Helm repo add OpenZipkin. Zipkin, oh, did I do that right? So I might have typed OpenZipkin here. Don't know. So this is the URL. So that's the repository. That looks good, right? Then the next thing that you would do is, like, once you add that repo, you would see the charts, but eventually you'd want to deploy oh, maybe I did it wrong. I assumed that I want to deploy a certain chart. So when I went down here, I said, hey, for this Helm release called OpenZipkin in this namespace OpenZipkin, the one that I created just a second ago, I want to deploy from this repository this chart called OpenZipkin. But where did I get that from? So this OpenZipkin is the name of the repository. But what is the name of the chart? So let's just do that locally to see. So let's do this clear. Let's just do it just like we're doing here. It's okay. I should have Helm. So now I've got this same repository, and I should be able to do this to see the charts. Oh, I bet you I picked OpenZipkin. So here we go. Helm search repo. I have this chart version here, and the chart name is OpenZipkin/Zipkin. So I knew that there was a problem. What I had deployed here, the chart was called OpenZipkin, and it should have been OpenZipkin/Zipkin. Okay. So, Brox, this might be more of an unexpected question. It's the weekend, and it's nice to see you doing something productive. I have online courses that I could be doing now and be productive in bettering my skills, etc., but don't always find the motivation to do so, or might find myself distracted with other entertainment mediums. Do you experience this? And or do you have any thoughts on becoming more motivated to improve my skills in my spare time? It's like you're hitting a a nerve, I guess, because these are conversations that I have a lot, and that's a conversation, that's a thing I've struggled with myself, right? And this is actually what we talked about a little bit earlier, kind of like everybody is somewhere in their journey. And one of those things, like trying to better yourself, one of those things is like, sometimes depending on where you are on that curve, you can't even see some folks, right? You can't even see them because they're on the other side of the mountain. They're on the other side of a curve. And there's tons. Everybody's on a journey. But everybody's kind of looking for somebody, looking at somebody in front of them. You know, trying to be more motivated, trying to do more things to get better. And it's definitely hard, right? Motivation is hard. But that's, I think, also part of life. And one of the things that I have found, when I want to know something better, I'll be honest, I'm not trying to learn a lot of new things. And I think this picture kind of says it. I'm kind of picking my stack. I'm picking the things that I want to learn. And I said just a second ago, I'll move this. These are the things that I feel comfortable and I have some level of knowledge in for my infrastructure, and your organization should be doing the same, right? So personally, like you should figure out, hey, like what do I need to do? If I understand Grafana, I might understand other tools like Grafana. If I understand Prometheus or Redis, like if I can understand these concepts that I've got on my list, if I can take them to production, struggle, you know, get some scar tissue and learn along the way, then that's me learning. And as I learn these things, the way to learn it better is to, instead of always looking like, where am I going? I say to look back, because there's, you know, just like there's always somebody up in front of you, there's always somebody behind you. And one way to understand something and learn something better is to look backwards. Earlier, there was a conversation like, what does it take to be an engineer? Or what were your tips for like engineering leadership or to get into that direction? And this is it. It's the same thing. And I believe that this same pattern, concept, or just the way of thinking that I learned from my dad, I believe that that's how I stay motivated. Right? I do struggle. I'm to the point now where I have a hard time sometimes just sitting down and watching TV, especially if something's noodling in my head. Like I could be at the zoo with the rest of my folks, with the rest of the family, and I'm not. And I struggle with that decision a little bit. Right? My kids and my wife and their cousins and all that stuff, they're at the zoo. But I got a busy week in front of me. And I have a lot that I want to get done. I like to learn in public. We've had fun getting help from people in the audience. Right? That was fun. It's always fun. It's always good to have that back and forth. But I definitely do struggle finding motivation. And not just in development, but in life and in everything. Getting on those routines and finding those patterns. So yeah, I do. And part of me, like the thing that I need is I need to have a routine. I need to, if you've ever read like the Atomic Habits book, like you get into like, hey, you do this and then you do this and then you do this. And if it's just automatic, then it's really easy. And if you're doing these things that are automatic, like, hey, after you watch The Big Bang Theory, then you spend 30 minutes writing a blog. Or after you eat breakfast and brush your teeth, then you do a algorithm, you know, or a code challenge or something. Like you just get into a thing, get into a rhythm, because it's not about cramming and going through these waves of, oh, I'm going to learn a bunch of stuff and stop. It's about being in that continuous mode of learning and developing. Now, I've spun off. Yeah. Glad I'm not alone. Thank you for the response. Atomic Habits, great book. I should recall those lessons, right? Right. It's not like, hey, here's the lesson and do it all. You got to take the bits and you got to figure out what works for you. So yeah, it's baby steps. I know for me, I definitely need to have a routine. So for me, like streaming, I wanted to stream more. In order to stream more, I had to give myself a routine. I had to say, I'm going to stream every day, 8:30 a.m. in the morning. Not when I'm taking time away from the family. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I'm taking time away from the family right now. I'm working on it. I also have work and I'm trying to do things, and I have this new company and all this kind of stuff. So I'm a little stressed right now. I'm a little nervous about my standing. Like, am I on solid feet? No, my company just got acquired. Like, nobody knows what I do. They don't know what I'm doing. So in order for me to have confidence, I got to do more. I always say every rep counts, right? When I want to get better at something. I'm sure I said it here, but every rep counts, right? These are things that I say all the time to my kids, to the kids that I coach, to the kids that I'm raising on my own. And I like to say, like, I like to say this: do the hard things until they're easy. Like the hard things that you want to do, the things that you know that you should do, that are hard for you right now, but you know that you should be doing it. Like, you just keep on doing them until they get easy, until it's just a part of what you're doing. So like if it's streaming, it's hard for me. Like I get embarrassed and I get nervous, but the more I do it, the easier it gets. And I think it's that for anything. Hey, I appreciate you just hanging out with me on Sunday. And as a reminder, like I always say, like, these are the things that I stream about. I think you've been here enough. Right now, this is what I was thinking about, but it all kind of ties into the same thing. But it's always okay to interrupt, ask questions. I'm not on a schedule. I'll get my work done. But for me, the most important thing is you. I would like to deliver a place for people to ask questions like this. It makes me feel like I'm doing what I set out to do when you are asking me a question like this. That makes me feel good, so thank you. Because it means something to me too, right? I definitely struggled in my career with not knowing who I could ask questions. As I was going, I'm going to go back. This is my career journey, right? There's tons of levels, but at some point in my career journey, I thought I asked somebody a question. I asked somebody for some guidance that I thought I could trust. And what they did was they took the fact that I asked that question, they took that and, they were kind of a jerk about it. And they socialized that, oh, he didn't know this thing that he should have known. Clearly we pay this guy too much. And I was like, whoa, it really hurt. And that was early in my career. And I just didn't really feel like I had a lot of folks that I could lean into and ask questions. So, Lawrence, I'm so glad you're here, right? Yeah. So yeah, it's, I hate when that happens too. I don't want that to happen to anybody else, right? It was an awful feeling. The what's the word? Imposter syndrome. That whole thing, like, hey, am I here? Many times in my career, afraid to ask a question because of one incident where somebody said, you should know that. So a lot of my career, I was afraid to ask questions for fear that somebody would say, oh, you should know that. Why don't you know that? And I think our ecosystem as a whole has gotten better at being more inclusive. We still got a long way to go, but I think our ecosystem's got better about removing gates and shaming and whatnot. But we still got a long way to go. I just wish that I had somebody that I felt comfortable and that I had access to, right? Because there's a lot of people that I looked up to, and it would have been nice. Yeah, I would have felt comfortable asking them a question because they'd put themselves on a stage or in a book or something, and I felt connected to them already. There's a lot of those people that I didn't have access to them. So one of the things that I would just like to do, I still have a job to do, but one of the things that I would like to do while I'm doing my job is make myself available for people that have ever wished or needed somebody to ask a question to. Doesn't matter what it is. I don't I don't have all the answers, but I got friends like Lawrence. I got friends on Slack. I got friends on Twitter, you know. And if I'm a little bit further along in your journey in some way, shape, or form, for me at this point in my life, I feel obligated to help. I want to get all these closer, or at least over the next hump, right? Wherever I can. That's an important part of what we're doing. And the thing is, hey, if this is me and this is somebody asking me a question, I don't have the answer. Hey, maybe Lawrence has it. I have no problem saying, hey, Lawrence, could you maybe help me answer this question? Hey, sorry about my graphs. They're my little drawings. This is just how I think out loud. But I'm comfortable with that. So thanks for being here on Sunday. I'm trying to wrap up. LOL, I'm sending them to Deshaun. Hey, like, teamwork makes the dream work. That's something else with whom we say a lot. Because it does. I mean, earlier this week, like, yeah, look at this. It's okay to not know everything these days. Too much of things is going on. Yes, that's a lot of it. You know, we had conversation about what does it mean to be full stack or whatever. There were breaking changes from .NET Core 2.2 to 3. So there's a thing called semantic versioning. Let's see, where was that picture? There's a thing called semantic versioning, where when we make changes to software, sometimes it's like, how do you know which change? If I do changes by like releases or by like dates, I've done that, right? 2023-112-17. If I said, hey, this is my release, when I release 2023-12-20, is there a break and change? So that's a weird thing. So what semantic versioning tried to help that. Where if I go from 1.x, or let's say 1.1 to 1.2, is there a breaking change? It should be no. But when I go from 1.2 to 2.0, breaking changes are implied. This is a major change. This is a minor change. That's kind of the root of the semantic versioning. And sometimes you'll see like a patch, like 1.0.0, or I'll put that on another example. 1.1.0 to 1.1.1, right? It's just a patch. Cool. So when we went from 2.2 to 3, and I don't even, we were pulling numbers. I don't think like we were quoting which version it was, but Spring Boot, which is, I'm a Spring Developer Advocate, Mr. Knock. I'm a Spring Developer Advocate, so Spring is what I do and what I care about. And Spring Boot a year ago went from 2.7.x to 3.0. Breaking changes. So for a lot of the last year, I was trying to, and one of the main thing is we rebased to Java 17. Need to use Java 17 to get the Spring Framework 6.x and Spring Boot 3.x features. So the ecosystem was using Java 8 or Java 11. and things were working just fine with their Spring Boot 2.6 and 2.7. Right? I mean, Java 17 is like super old now, right? Java 17 is like way long. Java 17 is the minimum that you need to be on in order to do Spring Boot 3.0. I do this. I do demos, right? I show people how to. Today, actually, tomorrow, Java 21 will be 3 months old, right? Java 21 came out, and you brought it, right? Now with virtual threads. I think it was released September 18th. And tomorrow, October, November, December. 3 months old. Java 22 will be released in 3 months. Making Java 21 middle-aged, right? So 3.2, you can with Spring Boot 3.2, you can use these features in Java 21, like the virtual threads. You can consume that. Spring Boot, the Spring team, right? Let's go back and look at our little, like, not that calendar, like this, right? Back in September 18th, Java 21 was released. Spring Boot 3.1 had like early access support for virtual threads. If you enabled it, you could do certain things and you could validate it and you could take it out for a spin. But with 3.2, that support for Java 21 was now baked in for all the things. The Spring team, when Java decided that they were going to come out with a new Java version every 6 months, the Spring team said, hey, they're going to have a new Spring framework every 6 months. And, right, Java every 6 months. Spring Boot every 6 months. Spring framework, which is like the underlying thing of everything. So Spring framework, then Spring Boot, then Spring Cloud, every year. So every 6 months, we're going to be in this like upgrade thing. And yeah, this is what we're doing. So with Spring Boot 3.2, I can still use Spring Boot 3.2 with Java 17, but it has to be at least Java 17. If I decide to go up to Java 21, then fantastic. I get the virtual threads support. So yeah, this is what we're doing. So last week I was working on this little YouTube video integration where we integrated with PubSub Hubbub here. We subscribed so that when a new video is created over on YouTube, that I get an event, and it looks like this because it happened when I started this stream. A new video ID showed up over on YouTube, and I got this event that's hitting my laptop. So here we are, and I wanted to take it a little bit further. So one of the things that I was wanting to do is, I like Zipkin. I want to do tracing. I want to have, this is the expectation. And this is this conversation, the per cluster, per tenant thing. DMOC says, I have Java and Groovy in my project. Is there a change I can move to Java? Is there a chance I can move to Java 21? Yeah, now the Groovy stuff, I don't know the answer. I could probably find the answer. And my co-host Dan might have a better idea. Yeah, my co-host Dan might have a better idea on that, but I'll tell you what I default to, right? As I go over here to docs.openrewrite and I look for recipes. But yeah, read the docs. I'm sure there's a migration path, but I look for the cheat codes. Oh, there's a format recipe. But yeah, I don't know the answer. But I'll tell you this. I'm happy to work with you. I'm happy to work with you to see, because that's something worth knowing. I'm sure this won't be the last time that I get asked. Well, like, what's the latest version? So we're on 5. So 5 is coming out. I wonder if this is what we're doing, but let's take a look in here and let's see what's up. Hey, Lawrence, thanks for stopping in. Yeah, get some light hacking done. You know, if what I want for you is like, you just put my little stream, put it over on another side. And if you get stuck while you're hacking, then you just be like, hey, Deshaun, like, what would you do? And I'd be happy to help. Mr. Knock, I'm glad to see Java catching up, but I'm really dying to see Java get value types objects. Give me your example. What are you missing? AKA what they call Project Valhalla. Okay. So it's on the roadmap. I mean, they're doing amazing things. You understand that Java has been around for 25 years, right? At least. And it's been around for a long time. And it's backwards compatible. Right? The stuff that you wrote, the bytecode that you generated with Java 1 is still going to run on Java 21 today. Right? That picture. So like, it's not just that the language has done a whole bunch of things. It's that the language has never broke, right? Like this bytecode. That was like the original promise, was the bytecode was going to be transferable across JVMs. So the bytecode from my oldest Java 1.1, right? That bytecode can still run on my JVM, my Java 21 JVM, on whatever operating system I can find Java 21. That's pretty cool. So as Java continues to make all of these upgrades, right? I don't know if your background with other languages, but like, things break. Right? There are these, right, things like, oh yeah, as the language progressed, Python's not even the best example because Python's even older than Java. But like in some languages, you can't use the old code. I'm not saying you should, but I'm just saying you could, right? Because we already talked about, like, you should be able to upgrade. Upgrading is awesome. But yeah, things are good. The roadmap. I'm so impressed with the team. I have a little bit of insight as to where things are going. What we're doing, the way that we're interfacing with computers is going to change. And it's weird to even like be thinking at that level. Yeah, I mainly work with Scala, but backwards compatibility is one of the reasons Java is so successful in enterprise environments. Like, yeah, right? I started doing Java development back in 1999, like professionally. I started, before that when I was in college, but like my Java career started in 1999. And here I am doing the same thing. And that's just cool, right? So we're here. I'm doing stuff, and this is just the way I take notes, and I end up drawing the same pictures all the time, but that's okay. I want you to see, like, when I deploy something like this thing that we built earlier this week, there are some things that I want to have, and you should want to have too. Metrics. access to your logs, right? Which I don't. And traces. Like these are just like default, the minimum that you should expect to have access to when you take something to production. And on my little platform thing that I'm working on, and it changes. So let me say this: my data center, right? Home labs. It's like it's like the neighbor. It's like your neighbor with their hot rod, fast car, right? It's up on blocks for most of the week. But on the weekends, I take it out, fast around the corners. But once I do that, I go around, I do my thing. Then I come in, I put it back up on blocks, and I'm going to mess with it again. So I'm always messing with things. And mostly it's Raspberry Pis and ARM64, a little bit of AI, infrastructure stuff, path to production. This is what I do. They only implement features that make sense. For example, I feel like C# has become very cluttered with features. So in my career, I've been lucky to play with all sorts of languages and get to take things to production. And I like to, I leave this out here, right? Cloud native COBOL.com. Have you heard of the COBOL language? I did. I made a COBOL build pack, cloud native build pack. There's a certain point where you build up experience, and you find yourself in different situations where you can either be comfortable digging into the code and figuring it out, or you'd be like, oh, that's code that I don't know and I don't want to touch it. And I've just been okay, COBOL. Like, let's see, like, how hard could it be? Maybe I can figure it out. But like, if you're going to be messing with COBOL, and you're like me and you don't want to have a mainframe, you build a COBOL build pack so you can run some COBOL code and take it. I haven't run this test lately, but I should probably go run that. But not right now, because right now I'm doing other stuff. But the whole, like, different languages have different stuff. I'm comfortable using different languages, but right now my job is Spring, and all the ways that Spring makes getting stuff to production easier. And when it is in production, it's ready, it's production ready. And yeah, and Spring makes it easy and comfortable to deploy to places like Kubernetes. So on my laptop, on my little machine here, I'm running Kubernetes, right? This is K9s, so I can look and I can show you that these are the things that are running on my laptop. Right? There's a log collector here, but that's not really comfortable, and I honestly don't know how to go get it. So now that my instance of that application is gone, those logs are gone. So I'm not capturing something for my logs, so I can't go back and look at that event that I got from YouTube when this stream started. But it's Kubernetes, right? When I go over here, it's like, I want you to pay attention right here. Right? There's only one instance, that's that Cloudflare D. When I go over here on this machine, you're gonna see when I hit https intro.deshawn.io, I hit that, we're gonna see 727 days that I've been loving this job. 727 days. And when I go back to my Kubernetes cluster, you can see, like, oh, it stood up. That application that responded for 727 days, that was scaled to 0. So it's running, it's deployed, all the things that are needed there, it's deployed. But now that it hasn't been responded to, nobody else hit it, now it's like, oh, okay, we answered, we can scale back to 0. So I get those resources back. These are cool things I can do with Kubernetes. Spring makes it easy to do things like that. Kubernetes native. Scale to 0. The advances that the Spring team has put into the runtime. This is just one example. Those are native images. that are running on this Darwin OS ARM64, Apple Silicon ARM64 machine, and I can do that. This is my daily driver. I don't do development on my Raspberry Pi. This is my Raspberry Pi. It's a $15 single board computer that has an ARM64 chip in it, and that I can take my Spring Boot workloads and I can deploy them to this. That's awesome, and that's what I do. Vicarious Greek says, "What do you think about HashiCorp Nomad? I mean, instead of Kate's." So earlier, there's so much that you can learn, and there's so many things you can do. And what I said was, I've made my decisions. I have nothing against HashiCorp Nomad. I've been in this for a long while, but I share my everything. I try to be transparent. I've got multiple Kubernetes clusters. Inside of those clusters, I've got dozens of physical machines deployed, and I think I put numbers up here. I don't think there's 92 Raspberry Pis deployed right now. It's like 50 or some are deployed, but there's still some more that need to be deployed. But they're all different types of Raspberry Pis. Small machines. What's nice is I don't just have Raspberry Pis. Right? This is one of the things that Nomad does. It kind of gives you this nice little way of interfacing with different machines. I used to use a project, and we can, I guess, pour one out, called Apache Mesos. Am I at the bottom? And I know that there's somebody that has dropped into the stream before that's super opinionated, and they gave a really, really good explanation of why they used HashiCorp Nomad that fit their use case, but I don't remember the details. But where I'm at, my audience, the folks that I'm engaged with, the developers that I'm dealing with mostly are using Kubernetes, or they're heading towards Kubernetes. And that's just, right, that's from the market, right? There's smart people that are out doing all of the surveys and asking the CTOs and all that kind of stuff. Like, where are you headed? What are you doing? Well, Kubernetes it's pretty cool. It's been around for a while. It's doing things. And this is still, it's a good option. I've just chosen to go down the Kubernetes path. And I've also chosen to look at some other things, right? These are the other pieces of infrastructure for my home lab data center thing. These are the things that I'm going to study and that I'm going to support. I don't have to know everything, right? I don't have to go deep on Mesos or Nomad or OpenStack or Cloud Foundry. I don't have to go deep on any of those. It's good to know a little bit about them when you're faced with options, and different people, different levels can make different decisions. But you kind of got to know where your role is and what you're trying to accomplish. And the more context you have, the easier it is to make a decision. But yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on, hey, this is a good option or this is a bad option. I know that it's doing great things for a lot of people. But for me, 6 months ago, my infrastructure mess looked a whole lot different. And I've just decided to simplify and just focus a little bit more on what I can take to production. I'm going to have a menu. I'm going to try to accomplish a few things. So Kubernetes, I've chosen K3S as kind of my default distribution of Kubernetes, and that's what I do because I can run it on Raspberry Pis. All right, let's go back. I think I have it already open. I can run K3S on Raspberry Pis, and I can do interesting things. This is a Raspberry Pi with 4 of the Raspberry Pis in cluster hat, and it's running Kubernetes. So I can do interesting deployments and interesting things. And because I'm a Spring developer advocate, I can show cool things. I can take production grade Spring on top of Java. I can do native images. I can deploy to Kubernetes. And because I've got friends that are doing on the edge type things, I have a use case. I have a story that I can tell, and I can show examples around what they're doing. So here we are. And we're having fun. It's just like exploring. So in my local environment, in this K3D running on this machine, I kind of showed it off. I showed the scale to 0, but what I wanted to do was I wanted to have Zipkin, and even though one of the projects wasn't using it, I want to be able to deploy Zipkin. I want to be able to have tracing. You should want metrics, tracing, and logs in production, whether it's on Nomad or Kubernetes or Cloud Foundry or whatever. You want some things. When you go to production, you want some things. These are like the minimum of what you want. If somebody says, oh yeah, I'm going to deploy your thing to production. Okay, you should have access to these things. That's expected. So here, that's what I'm trying to do. I want to deploy OpenZipkin. So let me get back to here. But again, as always, I really don't have a schedule. This is what I'm normally talking about. And right now I'm here. I want to get through an OpenZipkin deployment, and I'm trying to figure out if I should do a per cluster for Zipkin or a per tenant. In this environment, let me scroll back up here. On my laptop, I've got a tenant, Deshaun.io. So the thing that we did here, intro.deshaun.io, is right now it's scaled to 0. I hit it. This is just another tenant. I hit refresh. Okay, it says, yeah, cool. Because what happened was it scaled it up and it responded. But it's still deployed. I can still reuse this infrastructure for other things. And you got to take into consideration what that app is doing, right? This doesn't work for everything. But these are some of those things that you want. So I also, on my local machine, I also deployed javagrunt.com, this thing that I built on the stream last week that I'm excited about. It's fun. It's going to be cool. So here's that YouTube listener, javagrunt.com. We can hit refresh, boop, and it'll take a second because it's scaling up, but it's okay for what it's doing. It says it's up. I go back here and I can see now my YouTube listener is up for 7 seconds, 9 seconds. It did its thing. It's running. And this one that I didn't hit, now that one scaled down. And I have these set up for different things. I have different expectations, different workloads, I have different characteristics. So the question that I'm asking myself right now is, if I deploy Deshaun, this tenant, right? Think of your big A application, your portfolio inside of your enterprise. You got the customer hub that makes your customers money. It's how they interface with their money, their systems or whatever. And then you got your partners portal, right? But those are usually two different teams, two different parts of your portfolio, and they may be big A applications. You say hub, you know what you're talking about. You say portal, you know what you're talking about. But they're made up of a bunch of little applications. But I would call those, the portal and the hub, I would call those two different tenants in my infrastructure. And if I deploy both of those tenants on one cluster, my question that I'm asking myself is, should I worry about having one Zipkin, for example? Should I have one Zipkin deployed that both tenants have access to, and then worry about like RBAC and permissions and all that kind of stuff? Or, this is the way I'm leaning, for every tenant that I deploy into a cluster, for every tenant that I deploy, maybe they should have their own. And I saw this model where at first I was saying, no, I'm just gonna do one per cluster because I got Raspberry Pis. Like, I'm not doing stuff. I don't have a lot of money to spend. But at the same time, I got Raspberry Pis. So the workloads aren't ridiculous. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna say, and whoops, I'm gonna do it this way. Can I make that smaller? What I think is that I can do this. Oh, this is gonna mess me up again. I think I can do metrics, logs, tracing. I think I can do it this way because I've got these small workloads that are scaling to 0. I think it's going to be okay. Just like I have for, and this is the first thing that I did, just like I have for Cloudflare, right? I have to have ingress. I have to have a consistent way of doing ingress on all these workloads, on all of these different clusters. So I switched, and it's made a difference where I used to do, and I'll show you. This is all public. I'm trying to do everything in the open. And hey, thank you. I appreciate this, right? I appreciate you thinking this is valuable. And I'm just thinking out loud. And sometimes it's that feedback that makes the difference. But here, let's go to GitHub. I want you to see I'm doing as much as I can in public, out in the open. So these are the clusters. I got to update this one. Doesn't exist anymore. But here I made this change recently where I was doing the tenants separately. Now my tenants are in a folder. I should have an example of the way that it was before. Nope, I think I fixed them all. Oh, here we go. Nope. No, I updated it. But I had like this. So here I had Cloudflare D set up as a one per cluster. And then inside of the YAML, I was having to do things for, oh yeah, look it. I had to do specific configuration for Spring Office Hours and for Deshaun.dev. But what if I deploy another tenant to that cluster? Then I've got to go in and manage this. So what I was doing before was a single deployment, and I was doing it per cluster. And now, as of this week, I switched to now have a Cloudflare that is deployed as part of each tenant. So again, tenant is that big A app, that portfolio, that collection of microservices. So now, instead of having the per cluster, I've got it per tenant. So this configuration is much simpler. I can then deploy this tenant, Deshaun-AO or Deshaun-dev. I can deploy it to any cluster that I want. I can copy and paste that tenant into any cluster here. And it's just the one file that, hey, point to that tenant. It's got all of its ingress. Wouldn't it be nice if it had not only all of its ingress, and I think I'm convincing myself of what to do, because I'm already doing it for Cloudflare, the Cloudflare D instance. So why not do it for these as well? So we're going to explore. I'm going to copy these. So that's it. I think I convinced myself just now, like how I'm going to do it. I want you to have this. I want to share. I want your feedback. I'll remind you that I'm going to make mistakes. I'm figuring out my own opinions for my platform, for what I'm doing here. I'm letting you know. I'm being transparent. This is how I'm approaching things. The more I talk about my opinions, I think the better I'm going to understand them. But also, I think it opens me up for differing opinions. But my use case is this. I'm a developer advocate. I am trying to be where you are, but I don't have things that I'm not, my career's not, invested on some product and getting it to production and taking care of it. But the people that I talk to, the people that I'm trying to support and help out, that's what they do. So in order for me to understand, I want to have a little bit of empathy. So I'm deploying things in that closet back there on devices like this, because this is a $15 Raspberry Pi, and some of you, we've had conversations where the financial circumstances of where you live are to the point where that's maximizing how much you can take to production. Yeah, what are the pros and cons of both approaches? The big con for me and what my experience is right now is just what I showed you. Like I lost the flexibility of deploying a tenant to any cluster. Like if I wanted to move a tenant between clusters, like the one that we're working on right now, let's just do it, right? K3D, I have javagrunt.com. That's the one that we worked on this week. But let's just do it, right? Let's just show how the things look different. Do I have another cluster? I think the Nooks one is set up in this way. It's got Deshaun-dev. So this is a production-ish cluster. Now the cool thing is this cluster's ARM or AMD 64. These are Nooks, Intel. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over to my project, and this is going to be a fun little thing. I'll actually put this up before. My children will never deploy active passive. We'll get into that later. But I just wanted to remind you the way that my house is set up too. Inside of here, I've got two regions. I call them regions. I use that term loosely. But just inside of my home, my data center, I have two physical networks that are on two different providers, two different ISPs. So when I deploy workloads, when I deploy these tenants, I can literally deploy them to two different physical networks, two different physical electrical circuits, and two different ISPs. So let's dig in and let's talk about this. We're going to show the examples, what I want to do. I want to go into my Flux, not the project. So in here, this is the listener. This is the version that I'm deploying to production. These are some configs. I said, hey, I want that window open for 15 minutes before you scale down. So if you get traffic, stay up for 15 minutes before you scale back down to 0. We can go back and look at that. And we can see like, hey, it's still up there. It's been up there for 9 minutes and 53 seconds. But now, like, this flexibility of having, I think I have it open in my Flux control, the flexibility of having these tenants so that I can just copy and paste. Right now, it's already here in K3D Juice, my local machine. I'm going to just copy this file. Copy. This file just says, go grab that tenant. Here's the stuff that tenant needs. Go grab that and deploy it. I absolutely did just answer I'm convinced this is the right way to do it. That tenant, we're going to deploy to Nooks. Boom. Because I'm using Flux CD, because this GitOps approach, I'm gonna make sure I got all the latest and greatest. Git add dot git commit -m add java grunt -com to Nooks, to that cluster. I just committed locally. I didn't push it yet. Let's do this. Let's open in, how do I want to do that? Can I can't think of a good way to like show them both side by side. I've done this before, but I forget what I did. I forget what I did. Anyways, we'll go back and forth. So I'm gonna close this guy down. I'm gonna say kubectx Nooks. Again, welcome to my data center. Here we are. Oh, I got lots of stuff happening. This this one has WebLogic deployed, and WebLogic looks to be having some issues. So it's all right. Like, it's fine. I didn't modify the Cloudflare D setup, so now this will be interesting. I've got the old way of doing Cloudflare D and having to modify stuff. I don't like all the mess, but we're gonna go with it anyways because this is what I said I was gonna do. We're gonna take that, and did I push it? I didn't. We're gonna do a git push. We're gonna say, hey, deploy Java Grunt over to that. And what's gonna happen is we're gonna see a namespace in here for Java Grunt. And we're gonna have another Cloudflare D instance, because the way I've got it set up is when I deploy that Cloudflare D, when I deploy Java Grunt into Nooks, what's going to happen is, because I said so, I'm going to say, actually, let's just grab this, Control C, Control V. I'm saying this is what I just did. I want this tenant in here. And it's going to do this part. It's going to say, hey, for javagrunt.com, if you've got traffic, there's no port forwarding or anything. If you've got traffic that's intended for javagrunt.com, I'm going to answer it over here. All the things that I've deployed, that whole tenant, the whole big A application, this is my pattern. Everything I need to deploy for that tenant is going to be deployed over here. And now it's going to be in 2 different clusters. And now Cloudflare gets to decide where it's going to send traffic. So now I can do load balancing across my little laptop here and one of those Nooks back there that's also running K3s, but I've got this consistent way of doing it. And if tomorrow I decide that I want to deploy over here to Azure, all I need is Kubernetes, and I can go, and if I've got a Kubernetes cluster, all I've got to do is bootstrap that cluster. And what does that look like? I run this one command. I say bootstrap that cluster with Flux. And then inside of that cluster, I say, oh, here's what I want. So I could deploy to any Kubernetes cluster. I could make it look just like my laptop by just getting a Kubernetes dial tone, bootstrapping it with Flux, and then in the case I wanted, I would copy this and put it into that cluster in my Git repo. And then I'm same. I've got consistency. This is what we're doing. And you should be asking yourself some questions right now. Because it seems like that's kind of easy. Like, why is it so easy? Well, let's get back to our thing. Look at this. Hey, Java Grunt. It's coming up. That Cloudflare instance is coming up where it's saying, hey, yeah, I've got, oh, did I give it all those secrets? Oh, I didn't. It doesn't have the secret. So in order to do this in each cluster, but I've made this as public as I can, I also have to give it some secrets. I got to say, hey, in order to send traffic, right? Because otherwise you could come in here and you could send traffic to my tunnel, etc. So I've got to give her some secrets, but I'm showing you exactly how I do it here. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to say kubectx nooks. So now I'm on that one. And I'm just going to say this, but I'm not going to say Deshaun dev tunnel. I don't need that. I'm going to say customize build./env the JavaGrunt com tunnel. And I'm going to say, hey, the environment, I've got the secrets, have access to my secret store. I'm going to say inject those secrets and then deploy. So now here's the thing is I just got done saying about deploying all these clusters. What I should be doing is I should make it so that all of my secrets, I just do that once per cluster and they have all the secrets. That's what I should do. That's a better, I think, pattern. Because it's okay. It's okay. It's just a secret on that cluster. I should just, I'll come up with a better way of doing that. But now this container is creating. Now it's got the secret that it needed. I wonder if it's going to finish. I'm going to hit this just because I'm impatient. There's a kill button, Control K. I think I can go down like this. I think I can go look like, hey, are you having problems starting up? I'm hitting 0. It says it failed. Okay, now it's up. Okay, so now it's got the secret that it needed. So now it's running. So now javagrunt.com and this app, this first deployment on this Knative serving is running. And watch this. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go one step further. Well, it was running on K3D Juice on my laptop. I don't want everything. Should I look at that first? Let's go look. Here it's running here, but the problem is if I ask for this service right now, Cloudflare doesn't, it's going to bounce it between the two. That's okay. Let's do it. Here's what, maybe this will help. I want you, this is the URL that we're dealing with. HTTPS YouTube listener.javagrunt.com/ actuator slash, let's look at the info, because what we would expect to see here, I'm going to copy paste this into all the chats. What we expect to see here is version 5. Why do we expect to see that? Because in that tenant, in that platform customer, I gave that ability to them to decide. We should see a version 0.0.5 when we go to this URL. So what I want to do is I want to go here. I'm on the Nooks cluster. I want to go here and look at the logs. I'm going to hit 0. And I want to see if I can hit this node. So how would I do that? I want to get something in the logs here. So here's what I can do. Go hit that URL. I'll hit that URL. All right, Control C. But what I can't tell, so I hit it. I can see that I've got version 0.0.5, just like I expected. I kind of want to hit something that's going to cause an error. Oh, look at there. Look at there. Oh, we did all the things that we wanted to do. Look at, I'm showing you here. This is what I was looking for earlier. I'm showing you here that Zipkin's not deployed. I didn't have Zipkin configured. This is what I was trying to do earlier today, but we're hitting the Nooks instance. So somebody, you or I, hit this URL and ended up on these Nooks. But at the same time, let's go back and look. We're going to know Tube CTX K3D-juice K9s. Oh, look at it's scaled down over here. It's not even up and running. It's scaled down. It's still there, but it's scaled down. So if I go and hit this, maybe it's just me. If I hit refresh, I'm probably just going to hit the same instance, right, every time, because it's not coming up here. But now I want to hit this instance. So what should I do? How do I show you that it's still deployed here? I'll show you. I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna go back to the Nooks. And I'm gonna go down to this instance that we already hit. We saw it started up 7 minutes and 39 seconds ago. I'm gonna hit Control K. And now that one's dying. And now I'm gonna hit refresh. And you see it took a little extra second. I'm hitting refresh. I'm good. I didn't get an error. You know why? Because it hit the other instance. Look at that. It's up for 16 seconds. Like, we just like, you know, the best that I could, you know, without having a plan, is like, I just showed you, I've got this Java Grunt tenant deployed to both of these clusters. These ones are actually on the same physical network. They're both in the AT&T region. Share all those fancy terms. Here's the thing, I can't deploy Knative serving to what's in the other region at the moment, but it's the same thing. And it's not magic. Like, it's 2023. It's almost 2024. This is like, this is where we should be. This is like the expectation. This is what I expect anyways. Like, I've got a scar tissue. I've got lessons learned. This is just where we're at. So now that I showed you that Zipkin wasn't connected, I didn't have it. That's where I'm trying to get to. I want to deploy Zipkin. I want to deploy Redis. I want to take this project that I just showed you, right? So you want to see what it is. I deployed the docs. I used Spring REST docs to deploy the documentation. This shows you an example of exactly how you can call my API. You can go and look at the health. I should add one for the info because that's what I've exposed. But this is what we're doing. I'm trying to show you what the path to production looks like. I'm trying to show you how awesome Spring Boot is and how easy it makes things like deploying your documentation with your code, what test-driven development looks like, showing you how easy it is to get to production, the Spring Boot Maven plugin to build these container images that I can deploy. Oh, the other cool thing that we didn't even talk about, I mentioned it. Nooks is an x86 machine. K3D Juice is an ARM64 machine. Yet it's native images. I built native images for both. But how did I do that? I deployed the same image to both. How did it know if it was on x86 or ARM64? Answer me that. I didn't use emulation. I made native images for both ARM64 and for Intel, and I glued them together in what's called a Docker manifest. So I made in my pipelines, and the pipelines are there. We talked about this on the stream this week. Like I'm running on ARM64. Yep, GraalVM, absolutely. Yep, CircleCI, yes, cuz Nimok, you've been here this week. That's exactly right. Manu, good answer. I did that, but GraalVM is not the answer for how it knew what to deploy, right? I built these native images. I built these native images. I built both. Let's go over and look. And again, I'm doing this all out in the open because I've got opinions, and I can tell that some of you are downloading this, and that makes me feel awesome as well. But this is what I asked for. This is the tag that I asked for in my configuration. Right? This is that tag that we're looking at, v0.0.5. And when you go over to this is public Docker Hub, you see v0.0.5 has a digest that has an AMD 64 layer and an ARM 64 layer. So when I'm on Nooks, it pulls down the AMD 64 version. When I'm on Raspberry Pi or this Apple Silicon, it pulls down this version. But I get to deploy it the same way. I don't have to care. So when I'm bouncing between infrastructure, between x86 and, soon it'll be, I'll add one to that list, right? Teaser trailer kind of thing. Can you guess what I'm going to add next? Anyone? I already told you I'm using GraalVM. Does anybody know what flavor I'm working on next? It's RISC-V. GraalVM already supports RISC-V. And I'm going to be able to put all this into a Docker manifest, just like I'm doing today. Yes. I'm going to be able to put it. I don't know where I'm going to deploy it or build it. It'll be in here. But this is what I'm going to do. And I've said Raspberry Pi and I said Apple Silicon, but also it's not just it. Like this abstraction, this Kubernetes abstraction over different infrastructure. These are another ARM64 computer. It's called Lay Potato from Libre Computing. But I did this. This is a week or so, like on the 10th, a week and a half, where that one's up there. It's right there sitting on top and it's on these Legos. That's deployed. And it's the same thing. It's ARM64. Yes, it's a different type of machine, different type of processor, but I have that Kubernetes abstraction over the infrastructure, the Kubernetes dial tone, the same way, the consistent way of deploying Spring Boot workloads. Hey, Duan, welcome. Hola, glad you're here. Just recapping. I'm not really making a whole lot of progress in what I was trying to do, but I did this thing. I was trying to ask myself a question on some of these services, making them on a per cluster basis or a per tenant basis, and I'm pretty sure I've convinced myself that per tenant is the way I'm going to go forward. So I'm in the middle of doing this. For those of you that don't know, Duan really kickstarted some of the projects that I've been working. So tenant, let's go back up to these pictures. Think of it as a domain, or I call it a big A application. Like I think of it as like a team where the big A thing, like the customer hub or the B2B business portal, like the application that usually has a name. But for me, it's the different domain names that I've got. Deshawn.io is a tenant. And the way that I organize it is github.com Deshawn-io. So again, consider this as a customer of the platform. That tenant has a way of interfacing with the platform by way of YAML, and they can describe how they want their stuff deployed. And all I've got to do as a platform owner, all I've got to do is deploy it. And if tenant, right, application, big A application is living on my infrastructure, if it doesn't have any restrictions or requirements, I can do what I just did. Is I took a tenant that was running on my machine and I deployed it someplace else. So now I've got this tenant running in 2 different clusters as active. And I kind of showed what that looked like. And I killed one and showed that, yeah, it was going to the other one. So I already showed that. And that's what a tenant is. So for me, it's a domain name. I've got the Deshawn-io, which has a GitHub org. I've got Deshawn-dev, which follows the same conventions, right? It's got a Flux repository that tells me what it wants deployed and how, like the constraints around that application, that's how it's working. So the one that we worked on this week was javagrunt.com, and this is where you come in, right? So I moved this over, I added another org, and I created this JavaGrunt listener, and that's what we just deployed. So in this tenant, javagrunt-com, I deployed this app, my big A app, but we're just getting started. And I deployed it to a different cluster, along with some other things. But what I'm realizing is it didn't have Zipkin. I don't have Zipkin deployed to this cluster. So now I'm working through it. I want all this to be GitOps driven. I don't want to have to go and analyze what's in the cluster. What I did, the change I made over here, and I can undo it. So over here on Nooks, I just did this. I deployed the javagrunt-com. I deployed that tenant over here to one of my production clusters, these Nooks. But I'm still working on it. I don't really want it over there. I don't have my logs all set up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna delete this. Whoops, I don't know what I just hit. Added files, I don't know what I did. Edit, delete. What was that thing that I just did? View usage. Oh, no, that's fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that refactor, get rid of it. So out of this cluster, I'm making a change in the GitHub repo. I don't need access to that cluster. I'm making a change inside of this GitHub repo. And this is, I'm a platform person at this point because I've got access to these clusters in the infrastructure. Git status. Git add dot, git commit, remove javagrunt tenant. Git push. Because it's in this cluster, it's managed there. Let's go take a look at what that does. This is the K3D juice cluster where it's still deployed. We're going to switch back over to the Nooks cluster. And we're going to see it's starting to be undeployed. It's undeploying all the things that were a part of that tenant. I realize I'm embarrassed. I realized I got to go clean up this cluster. But the cool thing is I just showed you how I can do that. Because I can take a tenant while I'm needing to clean up that cluster, I can move this tenant to another cluster and I can remove all traffic from this cluster. And then I can do all the cleanup and then I can say, git commit, and then I can deploy everything right back to the way it was. Like crazy concept, huh? So this is what we're doing. JavaGrunt's no longer in that cluster. So now all the traffic that goes to javagrunt.com, to our YouTube listener, is going to come to my local machine. But I don't want to have to go into K9s and do this to look at my logs, because when I close this, right, when this instance scales to 0, which is going to do here any second, right, in 3 minutes, it's going to scale to 0, and any of those logs that I've got today, they're probably down here in this log collector, but that's not the way I want it. What I want is metrics, logs, and tracing, and this Cloudflare, this ingress automatic, so that no matter where I deploy, and this is what I'm saying on the per cluster versus per tenant, no matter where I deploy this JavaGrunt tenant on any one of the clusters, everything should just work. I should be able to move my tenants across clusters, period. So now, what I tried to do was I want to get this tracing set up. So yeah, tenant, that's, hopefully I answered that. James, Sunday night stream. Yeah. Here's the thing, I'm realizing I'm not being the best dad right now. One of the reasons why I'm doing the morning streams is so I can spend more time with my kids, but I got a big week ahead of me. I'm trying to get some of these things flushed out of my cache. And yeah, so I'm here. And if I'm going to be sitting here and it's stuff that I can be sharing, having a chance to like talk through these things and learn, this is how I'm learning. I'm understanding things better. And I think tonight I came up with something. And when you are here and you're asking me questions, you're keeping me honest, right? Let's go right down here. Like, I have an opinion. I was trying to figure out, is it better to do per cluster or per tenant for some things? And I think I've convinced myself that there are some things that I want to do as a per tenant. So when I move javagrunt.com from my daily driver to a production cluster, it's going to have everything it needs. And I can do active. I already proved that earlier. And I like that. So I want to go forward this way. And I think because I did it with Cloudflare D, I think I already know how to do it. I think I already know how to do it because I already did it. So I'm feeling pretty good at the moment, but I'm just trying to get some things wrapped up because I do have a busy week. So I'm thinking out loud, and I want to do more of this, and I'm having fun with it, to be honest. So yeah, I'm glad you're here. As always, thanks for hanging out. And I'm gonna go. I'm gonna keep on going. So let's fix this. What I realized earlier was that the way I was deploying it, it didn't work, right? So I was up here on K3D Juice, and I said, hey, I had my tenants deployed, but I said, I want to add OpenZipkin. So now I think this points to the OpenZipkin infrastructure. We're here, OpenZipkin. I looked at my config. It said, hey, just point to this. I said I should have an OpenZipkin namespace. Then I want to deploy this OpenZipkin Helm repository into this namespace. That worked. But the problem is, let's go show you the problem. Right? We see that there's no OpenZipkin. This is the cluster that I want to be on. When I do kubectl git customizations, we can see that OpenZipkin, it's having some issues. So then I can do kubectl describe. Open zip, -n flux system, and I can see it. So now I can see like, hey, what's going on? Health check failed, and look, it says Helm release OpenZipkin. I don't know what those are referring to. All I have is my YAML, but here I can see all the other details, but health check failed. Something's not right. So then I went back to the documentation. I'm going to close up a couple of these things. This is the project that we built this week, live on the stream. You can take it for a spin. It works. I can see that some of you are doing that based on the pulls. I have not deployed it 33 times. That's great. And yeah, it's documented. It's out there live and running. You can take it and play with it. But that's the whole point. Is I got a lot of benefit of watching other people live code on stream and being available. So this is the thing. Like, interrupt me. I'm trying to be there for you when you've got questions. That's the main thing. I don't have a schedule. I will get my work done. But like when I'm here, I'm making myself available. And if there are no questions, I've got stuff that I'm noodling on, and I will do my best to think out loud and maybe make you think up some questions. But I'm gonna make mistakes. I don't have all the answers. So I'm gonna close up some of these things just to clean up my confusion. Yeah, I love these things. Zipkin. So here, I went and I did these steps. I added the Zipkin repo, and I searched, and I realized that, actually, I'll do it again, right? The Helm search repo open Zipkin. I had the chart wrong. The chart is called open Zipkin / Zipkin. So here, this is what I'm going to call it. But here, this chart, it's not open Zipkin. It's open Zipkin / Zipkin. That's coming from the open Zipkin repository that we defined up here that points to this URL, which is exactly what I'm supposed to be pointing to. So this is the change that I think I need. And here's what I'm going to do. First is I'm going to deploy this just to make sure that this works. Git status, that's my default thing. Git add that file because I made a change. Git commit, change chart. Now I push it. I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna say watch kubectl custom get customizations from all namespaces. And we're hoping that this one fixes itself. I gave it new instructions. 95 minutes ago, was, at the beginning of the stream, I ran into the problem. It didn't work. So now I gave it a new config, and I'm hoping that it's going to, yeah. I'm looking for this to turn to true. So we'll see. It's trying to reconcile. So the way that I'm using Flux CD, this says, hey, check every 5 minutes for updates. This one says check every minute for updates. So part of Flux, the Flux system, is that it's going back and it's looking at these clusters and it's looking for changes to the resources that I want to deploy. So I don't know it that well. It's on the menu. I'm learning it as I go. I'm lucky that I work with somebody who worked at Weaveworks and contributes to Flux CD. So I'm lucky that I have access to that. I'm learning a little bit at a time. I'm comfortable learning in the open. It's okay to make mistakes because sometimes, and actually a lot lately, you, audience, have been helping me. Community. I don't like audience. Community. Like you've been helping me, and I think that we've been helping each other. So I'm gonna choose. I'm gonna lean into doing this in the open. And it might be 5 minutes before it needs to, but I have another cheat code. What I can do is I can say, okay, yeah, that's cool. I could wait 5 minutes, or I can go down here to my README, and I'm gonna remind myself ctx-c that I'm in the K3D juice cluster, and I'm just gonna say, hey, just go run this. Just bootstrap it and redo the things. It's gonna add a new key to my GitHub, and that's okay, but it's bootstrapped and it should fire off all the things. So instead of waiting for the 5 minutes for the new, that bootstrap should fire off all the things, but maybe I didn't fix it all the way. So it says, hey, everything, all hosts are not healthy. Okay. So let's do this. Let's go in and look at that again. This describe. Right, this one. This is the last event. It says warning, health check. Combined from similar events, health check failed. Timeout waiting for namespace open. Wait, is that the same? I just changed my little font here. Status unknown. Timeout waiting for namespace open Zipkin. Here we go. Configured. There we go. It's at this right here. Maybe you can see it, hopefully. Our type is normal. So let's go back to our customizations and open Zipkin. Still says unknown. It's reconciling. Let's look at this again. It says normal that the Helm release open Zipkin is configured. This one says health check failed still for Helm release open Zipkin, but I think that that's different. So let's continue to watch. We're going to continue to watch to see if we can get this to reconcile. And then, you know, I can raise my hand and say, I'm not sure what's happening. Now, I believe, let's do this. So 7 times, health check failed. Waiting for Helm release, open Zipkin. I feel like I've got a name broken still. Let me do this, because I think I can do slash customizations. I do that right? Is this? Oh, colon customization. There we go. So now, now I can just go in with K9s. I can look in here, and it says it's reconciling. And this is just a little bit different view. Okay, wait. Unknown client rate limiter, weight returned an error. Weight n equals 1 would exceed the context deadline. Helm release. See, this is not the right Helm release. It's supposed to be open Zipkin, right? Let's do this, right? Let's just fix it. We're back here, open Zipkin, Helm, right? I said chart open Zipkin, or maybe it's just supposed to be this. Yeah, status. I'm guessing. Wait, I do that. I don't have all the answers. Sometimes I just guess. I know this is right. It's the open Zipkin Helm repository. That's where it's coming from, but I think maybe this is right. Oh, this is it. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good about this. But now the cool thing is I like that I have this. I just learned these tricks here. That I can go in and I can see my status inside of here. So wait, I could go do the bootstrap fix or change. I wonder if I'm gonna see this. Toggle auto refresh R. Auto refresh is enabled, so I expect to see a change here. I could do this. Again, that little bootstrap that go do the things based on what's in Kubernetes. Instead of waiting for that 5-minute poll, just go do it. And because I have the auto refresh on, I expect to see something. I'm gonna hit the R button. It's disabled, it's enabled. There we go. So now it did something. It said, hey, this is configured. And then this 3 seconds says timeout waiting for namespace, open Zipkin. But it's still saying this. Oh, look at this. Health check passed. Configured. Reconciliation finished. Yeah, buddy. Look at that. So now I've got OpenZipkin, and I've got an OpenZipkin UI. So now I want to do something cool. So let's think here. If I've got OpenZipkin might not be the best, but yeah, if I've got this is for my traces. I can definitely do my own ingress, and I can go to each instance. But as a developer, like as you do a git commit and you want to get to production, the tracing piece, if I have this in multiple clusters, I don't know that I want to give you access to. I don't, and I already made up that decision. I don't really want or need to. We can figure it out, but I don't need to give you access to the tracing on this machine or this cluster and the tracing on this cluster, because what I'm going to do is the way it's going to look is all of those things are going to get rolled up. And like, I'm not just coming up with this. This is the plan. I've got a management cluster. So if I've got Zipkin over here for my traces, and I've got it over here, the goal is I should have a Zipkin, right? So you have one place to go and get all your traces that are coming in from all the different clusters. That's what we're doing. That was the point of this management cluster. We're not there. We're baby steps. You're going to learn along with me. But this is a pattern that I've seen. I'm lucky that I get to deal with interesting, amazing customers all over the globe. And I've seen these patterns. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't seen it for Zipkin, but I have seen it for these other pieces that we hear about, like Prometheus. And last week started with Prometheus, where I can have the metrics from multiple clusters aggregated as a consumer or a developer that's riding on this platform. You're somebody that's working on the Java Grunt team. You don't, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you don't really care about whether it's deployed in Azure or Raspberry Pis or Nooks or Germany or Singapore or wherever. You don't really care, but you do care about having access. Like, where do I go to find my logs? Where do I go to find my metrics? Where do I go to find my traces? So what I do, right, for Prometheus, and same with, let's just do this for Grafana. What I will do is I will, and I know, because I read it somewhere, I know that on these environments, you won't have access. You'll be able to go and look and see things, but you won't have access to do like queries or anything. The metrics and stuff will all get fed into this Grafana, and I believe this Grafana is actually up, grafana.dashaun.cloud. So if you are deploying something to this platform. You're just doing a git commit. I'm going to move your workloads around, right? Hopefully I'll let the platform be smart and move it around for me. But things are going to get moved around and you're not going to care as long as your SLAs are met. As long as, like we showed earlier, your instance is up and you have the right versions that are being deployed and everything matches. You won't care, but you will want to be able to go and get your logs, and you'll have logs. And I'll put it at someplace like javagrunt-com.grafana.deshaun.cloud. I'll have something in place. We'll figure that out later. But this is cool. Like, this is what we're doing. This is the approach. I don't have it all figured out, but right now I've got JavaGrunt deployed. Now I've got Zipkin deployed per cluster. So I've got a single Zipkin instance deployed on K3D Juice. Like Knative serving, yes, that's where everything is deployed. But I think that I would rather have this open Zipkin. And now, I've never tried this before. I didn't prepare anything here. I'm learning with you. I believe I convinced myself the same way I deploy Cloudflare for each tenant, I want to deploy Prometheus, Grafana, Loki, and Zipkin. So just by default, out of the box, this is what you're going to get. You get infrastructure that's going to give you metrics, logs, traces, and ingress, and SSL. Like, you get that out of the box. Right? All of my workloads all are protected. They've all got valid certs here, right? I got the, I don't know, you can see it. I have the certs. I got the goods. So this is good. This is what we're trying to do. And now let's move from having a Zipkin on this cluster, and we can go look at that, right? But I don't want to. What I want to do is I want to go into here. So when I deploy Cloudflare D, when I deploy this JavaGrunt tenant to a cluster, I want to have Zipkin. So what I'm going to do, follow along with me, tell me what you think. Zipkin dot. Look at that. That's code, GitHub Copilot. Look at this. So this would be the internal URL. And it can see the pattern here. Zipkin.javagrunt.com. So I haven't deployed it this way yet, right? I didn't deploy it in the namespace. I deployed Zipkin into OpenZipkin. So on this knative.deshaun.cloud, on this particular clusters on, I put Zipkin into its own namespace. And I just did this, so it's just top of mind. Like, it's not something that you would expect, or, but this is what I did. No, not that one. The infrastructure. I deployed it into its own namespace. But what I think the better way to do, I'm going to test this one out. I'm going to connect this one. So if you go to zipkin.javagrunt.com, because I've got Cloudflare D, it will take that traffic, and that traffic will come to this machine. And you'll be able to look at this, but that's not the URL. When I run the UI, let me go back to this project and let's start up. This is my Spring Boot app where I've got OpenZipkin running as a test container and Redis. And this is going to start my app. This test application is going to start my app using, again, on the same Docker desktop. It's going to stand up my Zipkin and my Redis that I can connect to. It's going to plug it in automatically. I don't have to worry about anything. I've got service connections, so I don't worry about ports, etc. It's going to put them on on their own ports, and it's going to forward it automatically. It's going to tell my Spring Boot app, here's where your Zipkin instance is, and here's where your Redis instance is. Let me show you what that looks like real quick, because this is another amazing, cool feature that you get with Spring Boot 3. I think it started in 3.1. So let me open up a new tab. I'm just on my laptop here. And when I open up a terminal on my machine, if you want access to my secrets, you've got to know my password stuff. And then having that password gives me a Bitwarden session so I can have access to all my secrets. But I do that Docker PS, and I will see that I've got a Zipkin that's been up for 47 seconds. It's on 9410. So this is the port on my machine. 59398 will forward to 9411 in this thing. So I'm going to go to 59398, and I'm going to show you what I want to provide access to. Localhost. This port, when I go to 59398, it's going to redirect and take me to Zipkin. So if I change this, and I think about zipkin.javagrunt.com, I want it to go to 9411, and I want to make sure it does that redirect part proper, so I can see all the traces. That's what we're trying to do here, because I don't want it to be localhost. I want to have access to my logs, my metrics, and my tracing. So let's do this real quick. Let's cross our fingers and see, right? Does that make sense? If I forward, it'll redirect. I think it'll work. But when I deploy Zipkin, do I have to give it a value? So in the Helm chart, again, I don't know, I've never done it before. We're learning this together. In the Helm chart, right? When I hit that port, it knew to redirect on localhost. And when I set these up, when I set up these customizations, I can also pass in values that I want to be passed into Zipkin, into that Helm chart. And we can see those, right? We probably just looked right at them a second ago, right? This is our documentation. Here's our values. We can do the ingress.host. So this is the default ingress.path. So these are the values I can change. I think this is the one that I want to modify, because the default is chart-example.local. That's the ingress.host. And I think what I'm saying is my ingress.host is zipkin.javagrunt.com. That's what I think. I can set up storage, etc. Fantastic. We'll get to all that later. But let's just try to get our Zipkin set up. Let's go. Let's see what's happening. And we'll keep on just thinking out loud. So what we're going to do right now is we've got Zipkin deployed, but it's on a per cluster. Can I connect, if I want to connect my app to that Zipkin instance, let's do this. Let's go back to K9s. Oh, not over here. Let's go over here. And let's look at, this service. And let's take a look here. Oh, these are the logs, right? And it said, yeah, cool. This is where I'm at. But let's do this. Let's go :service. And I should have a OpenZipkin service. Here's the cluster IP. I should be able to hit D here, describe. I should be able to take a look. right? So, wait, what? Connection refused. I don't even know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the service, but it's not going to be in here. What I want, there's the external IP, right? I think I'm just more comfortable doing it this other way. Ports. Let me show another example. Actually, I already did, right? When I'm down here for Cloudflare D, when I come in on Java Grunt, when I come in on YouTube Listener, what I do is I call this service Courier Internal Knative Serving. This is the namespace, service cluster local. Here, when I'm coming in on Zipkin, I'm thinking that it says it's not Zipkin, right? The service I called it was OpenZipkin. I'm going back to look, right? The service name is OpenZipkin. The namespace here is OpenZipkin. So this is going to be OpenZipkin, the service name, the namespace, .service.cluster.local, port 9411. Right, port 9411. Just like Knative kernel is port 80, right? 9411. So I think that that's good. So now if I want, if I want my Java Grunt app, let's do, oh, you know what's interesting? Is I have all of these deployments here that I can always roll back to, but we'll come back to that later. We're going to go back to here to my pods, and my Java Grunt, my YouTube listener, it's scaled down to 0, so it's not there anymore. So I'm going to stand it back up just to like talk to it. I'm going to hit the health endpoint. It's going to stand up. I'm going to hit the info endpoint, and we're going to see that it's 0.05, and now I see it. It's been up for 5 seconds over here. And I can go into the logs, and I expect, why did I not see the Zipkin error here? 0, 1, 0. Why don't I see the Zipkin? Actually, will somebody do me a favor? Wait, let me see. What happens if I do this? Bad request. What did I do to get the Zipkin error? I don't remember. Wait, where did my window go? Here's the docs. So I have it configured with Zipkin. Zipkin's going to set up these spans and traces so I can see like, oh, traffic came in from this URL and went out to this URL. I want to be able to connect the dots. That's all Zipkin is. This app isn't really doing a whole lot, so it doesn't have a lot of spans or traces. It doesn't have a lot to do here. But for some URL, I was getting the Zipkin, couldn't connect to Zipkin, and maybe it's just after time, but we'll figure it out. Let's look at metrics. The arrows on the nooks, yep. But again, we're deploying the exact same stuff. I just don't remember what URL I hit in order to get that. Yeah, I'm here. I'm having fun. I'm going to wrap up here pretty soon because, like I said, I do have a long week. But what I'm trying to do, I want to pass in some config to here, I want to get this set up. So let's do this first. I should be able to set this up. Whoops. I should be able to set this up. And in order to do this, I've got to point this host name, which doesn't exist yet. So I got to do that. Cloudflare. I'm going to log in over here on Cloudflare, and and this is one thing I don't do inside of Git, which I should. I'm going to go to the Java Grunt DNS, and I'm going to set up this DNS. This YouTube listener. I'm going to copy this same value, and I'm going to have zipkin.javagrunt.com point to the exact same tunnel as YouTube listener. So that the tunnel here, which we're going to set up, it's already listening, but I'm going to give it one more configuration. I'm going to add a record for Zipkin and point to the exact same tunnel. So that's done. I have this tunnel that I've got configured. This tunnel is now accepting traffic for zipkin.javagrunt.com, but I haven't given that configuration to my instance. So even though Cloudflare, let's go back to my picture. Even though Cloudflare says, "Oh, I know where zipkin.javagrunt.com is," I'm going to point it to this tunnel. Even though it knows where to go, my instance here doesn't until I commit these changes. Add route for Zipkin. Cool. Done. So now my single instance of Cloudflare D, that little listener running on my machine, that little instance knows that, hey, when you're sending traffic, oh, you got something for Zipkin, I know what to do with that. And when I deploy it over here, it'll know what to do as well. And if I've done this right, again, I'm deploying to the cluster-wide K3D juice. If I do this right, the Zipkin service won't be OpenZipkin.OpenZipkin. It'll be OpenZipkin.javagrunt.com, just like this one. That's right. Am I doing that right? Yeah. I am. So let's see, did I make any changes here? Go back and look. Cool, let's exit out here. Let's take a look at this. It says it's been up here. Incoming request ended abruptly, context canceled. Actually, info. When was that? 38. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna hit Control K. Oops, back here. I'm gonna hit Control K on this instance to get it to restart. Actually, that won't give it the new configs. Let me look. Oh, I can do it in here. Remember, I can go customizations. And I don't have a new one. Even did I do a push? Git pull. Git status. Yep. So everything's committed. Everything's good. I'm gonna do this little bootstrap thing just to say like, hey, here's all my new configs, because I don't want to wait for whatever time limit I need to wait for. Oh, and something got applied, or something turned green. Let's take a look and see what that means. Reconciliation finished 62 seconds ago. Okay, cool. Let's do this. Go back to pods. And it said reconciliation finished. We think that it's going to be there. What we hope. So now let's take a look. So what we think that we've done is we think that we've deployed OpenZipkin and we think that we've given a route to that cluster wide. Let me put this in here. Actually, I know these layers are funny. Hello, OpenZipkin. So I deployed OpenZipkin using the Helm chart, but I deployed to the cluster, not to the tenant. So it's in its own namespace. And what I think I've done is I've set up a tunnel from javagrunt.com, zipkin.javagrunt.com into this OpenZipkin. So let's go take a look. HTTPS zipkin.javagrunt.com, and can't be found. Okay, that's so let's take a look here. Let's go see. Did I do it? Like, was it hitting? It was were you coming here? I said to 9411, like it's not seeing anything. So is it that my record's not deployed? Wait, did I hit save? Oh, I didn't hit save. I didn't hit save. So it wasn't, my DNS wasn't done yet. So let's do this. Here, let's just go right here. Let's say, hey, can you ping zipkin.javagrunt.com? Sure, I know where that is. I'm answering the call, but we knew that as soon as we deployed that, we knew that this would happen. But now, is this going to happen, right? Is that tunnel going to make it all the way through? It's not. So let's take another look. We can do a few things here. I went here. I said, hey, I expect you to be here. Let's see if it got here. Let's go back to the Cloudflare. I've got a JavaGrunt Cloudflare instance. It's got logs. It doesn't look like it's getting the call. But also, it doesn't look like it restarted either. Even though it said the reconciling was done, I'm going to do this. I'm going to hit Control K. Did that work? Yeah, so now it's up for 6 seconds. Let's go take a look at those logs. So say, yeah, I'm connected. We're cool. Now let's go back here. Do you have the configs that you want? Look at this. Heck yeah. So now we're connected. Cloudflare D, my JavaGrunt applications now have an OpenZipkin they can connect to, but it's still not per tenant. Now we are deployed and this is working and we have our routing, but now we want to make it one step better. Now we want to give, because I convinced myself earlier, the question was, do I want to have per tenant or per cluster? And I said, you know what? I like this per tenant better, because the example that I showed was, what if I want to deploy JavaGrunt, this tenant, over to this cluster? We deployed it and it had all the things and it had the Cloudflare. Why not just have the OpenZipkin as well? So let's put OpenZipkin. And again, if you're bringing your tenant, you're bringing your stuff onto this platform, you don't care. You just want an address to go to. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if I can figure out the right way to do this, and maybe you can help me. Is I want to move Zipkin, which is up here. It's deployed as infrastructure to this K3D juice. So it's deployed as a cluster level infrastructure. I would rather, I'm going to get rid of that. Like, I'm just going to do it. Bye. See ya. Okay? Because that's not where I want it. I don't want it deployed at the infrastructure level. And in fact, I might later on, if I'm going to do this aggregation, which I don't know how to do, but I'm going to leave it there, as this is what's on the menu. Reminder, this is what's on the menu. But I'm going to delete that. Watch, get status, get add dot, get status. Like, hey, get rid of that from this cluster. And I'm doing a git commit. I'm going to get rid of this OpenZipkin, hopefully. Git commit remove OpenZipkin. Not king, Zipkin. Okay, all I did was remove it. I said, hey, I don't want that deployed in this infrastructure anymore. I don't want it deployed as a part of the cluster. And hopefully we'll see this disappear in a minute, but I'll circle back. And what I would rather do is I want to deploy it as a part of this Java Grunt tenant. So what would I do? Up here, I just had the file. I probably should have copied that file, right? Let's do this. It's gonna look just like this, right? Could I, in here where I have Cloudflare deployed, could I just have that exact same file, what I just had? Did I have anything special? I don't think I did. Let me just do this real quick. Show local history, show history. Here, I have this OpenZipkin YAML. What if I just take this? Oops. Show local history. What did the OpenZipkin? Oh, this. No, that's not what was in it. Get out of here. Computer, you're drunk. I'm gonna take this. Copy. I'm gonna close all these other things. And I'm gonna say that Zipkin is a part of this tenant. When you deploy this tenant, along with Cloudflare D, I want you to deploy OpenZipkin. Add. And the way that I want you to do that is this. I want you to deploy this as part. This is just doing a deployment. I don't think I want it this way. Do I? Where it's going to say the name is OpenZipkin. I don't think this is right, but maybe. And the namespace, I want open. Wait, that's the customization. Hold on. Yeah, I don't think this is right. Down here in the customization, I say do RBAC, sync, and then deploy this. And this part, I think I only need this. I don't need a, because I already have that top level. And what I'm going to say here is I want OpenZipkin deployed into Java Grunt-com, my tenant. And, oh wait, that's not enough. Oh, because I didn't grab everything. Control C. Let's try that one more time. So I don't need to deploy a new namespace. I want a Helm repository. I'm going to go ahead and put that into the Flux system. That's cool. And then I'm going to deploy this chart, not into OpenZipkin, but into Java Grunt-com, into my tenant. So deploy this chart into my tenant. This looks right? This is all I have to do. So I'm not deploying it per cluster. Now I'm deploying it as part of my tenant. So I've made my OpenZipkin YAML. which says, hey, point to this repo. And this would be okay if this was double dipped a little bit. We're going to go with it. This might run into overlap because it was already deployed there, but we'll see. But then here, I just need to add one thing. Dash, say open zipkin YAML. So when you deploy this tenant, I want you to deploy Cloudflare D for it. I want you to deploy OpenZipkin for it. And then I want you to look over into this repository for all the changes. Sorry, sync. This repository for all the changes. Good. I'm feeling comfortable with this. Let's go see if our other Zipkin, it disappeared. When I deleted it, it disappeared. So now we do git status, git add dot, git status again. Here's what we did. We modified the customization YAML that said, hey, I also want you to pull in, let's go back here. I also want you to pull in OpenZipkin, which we just created, new file, and we said deploy OpenZipkin. Git commit add Zipkin. So now what do we expect? What I expect is I'm going to get an OpenZipkin right next to my Cloudflare D in javagrunt.com that I have access to. I'm going to need to make one more change because Cloudflare D is routing Zipkin to this namespace, and I want it to route to javagrunt-com. Git add dot, git commit. Again, git ops, fix Zipkin route. Okay, so here's our OpenZipkins coming up. I don't remember what I had to do for the Cloudflare D, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to do Control K and see if that fixes it. Okay, it's up for 2 seconds. We'll see if we get a route. It's registered. That was fast, like fantastic. Here I've got OpenZipkin. I don't need to change anything else. I should be able to go back here. And I'm going to close these because I want to open them up. I want to feel that joy of having it work. If I go to https zipkin.javagrunt.com. Bad gateway. So it's here. It says, hey, yeah, cool. This is exactly what this picture is telling me. It says, like, yeah, I get it. You're going to the right place. Like, we understand where zipkin.javagrunt.com is, but something back here is just not quite working. So let's take a look. Let's go back to our K9s and let's do this service. And let's go down here to JavaGrunt. I have got OpenZipkin is the name. Did I do that right? And it's in this namespace, javagrunt-com.service.local cluster. All right, so let's go back to pods. I think that we're good. But the other thing that I did, Cloudflare D, this part is tricky, and I've ran into this before, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just bootstrap it again. Like, hey, we're good. Like, just run all the stuff, deploy all the stuff, instead of waiting for the polling to get the new configs. And while it's doing that, I'm gonna go back over here and I'm gonna bounce this guy again. I'm hitting Control K here to kill the Cloudflare D instance because I want it to get these new configs. All right, so I've got one that's up for 3 seconds, Cloudflare D, and let's try this again. Here, we did it. We did something. So now I've got a Cloudflare D and an OpenZipkin that gets deployed automatically when I deploy my tenant. My tenant is javagrunt.com. And in that javagrunt.com tenant, I said, I'm going to close this. I'm going to get my traces, but I haven't configured my app. In this project, in my tenant, and for me, my tenant is the entire GitHub org. In this tenant, I've given it some configs. I said, hey, I want you to deploy this app. But I believe I want to give this app some configs because right now, by default, The Spring Boot app has sane defaults. It's going to look at localhost. Let's go see if we got any logs here. Oh, no, not there. We got to bring our app up. Remember, it's scaled to 0. Could OpenZipkin be scaled to 0? It could. It could. We just have to have the backing service, the backing data store figured out. We'll get there. We'll get there. Right. So we're here. We're going to hit our service, YouTube, listener. We can hit the docs and show you, hey, I got my docs deployed. We're going to hit the actuator info and show you that it's got version 005. And we're going to show you that it's reporting as healthy. Cool. So now I've got some logs in here. We see that our application is up and running and scaled up. It started and it's good. It's fantastic. I could go and I could subscribe and do the pub sub thing with YouTube events. What I really want to do is I want to upgrade, I want to update the configs so that when I get a call, when I get traffic, I get the traces automatically. And that's it. So let's go here. Let's go to spring.io. Let's go to our projects. Let's go to Spring Boot. Let's go to learn and let's go into the reference docs. And let's talk about where am I going here? I thought it was here. I thought it was on let's go back because it's not just Spring Boot, it's Spring Framework, right? Let's go to Spring Framework. Learn, reference. Here we go, integration, observability. Observability support. Produced observations. I want Zipkin, the IP tracing. I want tracing. I get it out of the box, right? I didn't do anything. I get the tracing pretty easily. It's now a part of Spring Framework. So it's built in from the bottom. It's underlying technology. Let me do this. I'm gonna look for an example. I already know what the example is because I went down this path. Spring boot tracing, this one. So I went down this path. This is an old example. I'll show you that this guide, it's 2 years old, right? So it's using outdated things. And right now it's, I've got an open issue. I think it's here somewhere. But I opened up an issue around why that one's not working. We get it for free. And all that I care about really is in this app, when I go to production, when I deploy to the tenant, how do I reconfigure the Zipkin? So in here, in these properties, what would it look like? In a Bright Manager Zipkin, there it is. Yeah, so if that's the normal place where we're sending our traces, all I need to do, this is done automatically, right? I don't have zipkin.javagrunt.com. I don't expose the port. Oh, it's got to be, so this is internal to the cluster. So it's internal to the cluster. So let's go back over here, right? And let's peek here where this is the address. This is the part that we're replacing. So where I had, where I had localhost 9411, I'm replacing that with this. This address is, it's localhost. It's on that same cluster, but it's this instance in this namespace on this of this service in this local cluster. Same port, same endpoint. I didn't change anything else. That's the address that I want to pass, but I don't want to do it here. I want to pass this property. Ideally, I want to do it as a part of, I think this, wait, what is going on here? Oh, because I have dev tools. Because I have dev tools, when I changed this property, it automatically restarted everything. So like, again, another really cool feature. But I think that I want this deployed as part of my deployment. I want to give these properties as a part of my deployment when it lands on Kubernetes, right? Everything else is like a default. Oops, sorry. Everything else in this application is a default setting. This is some new functionality that I'm working on, but those will be configurable as well. But as we go, I think that I can do this as Knative, as a part of the workload YAML. Converting a Kubernetes deployment, Knative. So yeah, just bear with me as I'm learning. I would like to pass some values in. It could be as a config map for the app, but for some reason I think that I can do it for the workload. So bear with me as I try to remember where I learned these things. Knative service, create the YAML right here. So for that container, I can pass in these environment variables as a part of the service. Yeah. So I'm back over here at Flux, where I've given the team that's deploying these apps, I've given them the ability to configure their things. This would be a default, right? If I'm deploying this, this is something that I want to provide as like, hey, here's the convention, here's where your Zipkin is, but you've also got the ability to change it. So at the same level as my image. Oh, it's as a part of my image config. I'm passing in this environment variable and the environment name. It's not going to be target. The environment property is, I can do this. This is the value that I want to pass in when I deploy it. This is the value. The name. Sorry, I'm getting through my windows. The name is, I can say, hey, I want Zipkin URL or Zipkin endpoint. Or look at this, it's doing on Zipkin endpoint from my environment variable or this. So I can make this a part of my configs. So, and I'm a little bit OCD. I can make this a part of my configs. So if it sees a Zipkin endpoint inside of its environment variables, it'll use that. Otherwise, it'll use this localhost 9411. Now, I don't need to have any in VRC. I don't need to give that locally when I'm doing development. I only need to provide the Zipkin endpoint when I get deployed. So this is the value, Zipkin endpoint. So when I deploy this application, and it won't be version 5, when I deploy this application, it's going to say, hey, here's the Zipkin endpoint environment variable is this value, which matches on the cluster, and it'll match every cluster because this is the way it gets deployed. When we do this, it'll have a value, and my code will say, hey, I would like to use that value instead. So if I go back over here, and I've said, hey, use this instead. I can still pass these other things, but I should just do these right now as well. Because if you want to use this application, you'll want to use different values, but I should make these exact same changes. So let's do that. These are some options that I've got. I'm just having fun with this. This is just for the subscribe stuff. I can leave that. I can leave that. I don't want to put this in the source code. I really don't want to put any of these in there. So what I should do is this. I should, if I'm trying to be like open source friendly, I should say channel ID or your replace with your channel ID. And then that channel ID I'll put over, and I'm not using it yet, so it's not a big deal. But this is what I should do, right? Listener URL, I should say. If I'm doing this right? If I want to make this something that you can use, I'm gonna expose some of these things. This is not real, and to be honest, I can comment these out because they're not there. This is gonna make a difference now. Let's go see if there's anything else that I changed. I said diagnostics. I was gonna give it a URL. What would be fun is I can do this. I'm trying to think of what's the cool way to do that. I put in some examples and comments, which I don't really need. That'll be for the next step. And I might do that tonight, if I'm being honest. I might do that. But I'm gonna get rid of that for now. I want to just do the Zipkin tracing. I can come back to this. Is there anything else that I did here? Okay, all I did was change this one property. It's the only thing I'm changing. I did add Redis, which shouldn't affect anything else. So the only thing that I'm doing is adding the Zipkin property. I added Redis, but everything should be fine. Let's stop this instance. Oh boy, I'm having fun with this. let's go here. Clean package. Like, is this going to work? All my tests are still going to pass. My endpoints are going to work. I'm going to add one more test, the actuator info endpoint, just to expose it and to show that it works. All right, what failed? It was trying to connect to Redis. So okay, I can comment that out. No biggie. I don't need it at the moment. I'll come back to that. So if I do that, I also have to do this. And we should be good. Make sure our tests work. Make sure we didn't break anything. Because we're going to take a new version of production. That looks like it's good. Except when I add just one more quick little test. Because I'm following a convention. That's it. I have this actuator health endpoint. And I also want to be able to expose the actuator info endpoint, and I want you to know that it's there. Info, yep, modify the URLs, but it's actuator info. There's others, but these are the ones that I've been talking about, and these are the ones I've been showing. So when I go into my documentation, remember, we're deploying our documentation along with our tests. So we added a new test. So good, you want to test things. Let's run that test. Make sure that our info endpoint works. Fantastic, our info endpoint works. And because that works, we have now a snippet that shows us how to go and access that info. I don't need all of them, but I would like to show you, the user, the people that are consuming this, or for me in the future. I'm being nice to my future self. Check the application info. Operation info snippets, HTTP request and the request body. Like, here's what it looks like. Here's what it looks like. So now we've got this application that's out and running, and we've got documentation that goes along with that application. So again, remember, I deploy here at docs. Oh, there's one more thing I want to fix. docs/index.html. When I go to this static URL for docs/index.html, you'll see that it doesn't have the one, excuse me, it doesn't have the one for health. Or it has one for health, but it doesn't have the one for the info endpoint. But if I go and I hit this, right, the whole point of this documentation is so you have an example that you can go run. So if I copy and paste this, Control-C, I go over to the terminal and I hit it, that's how you access it. And then you get the same output that you would expect. The status is up. And I know that it works because I ran my tests, and my tests build the documentation. So this input and output got generated from my tests, Spring REST docs. And this is really, really cool. So you have a way of executing, and I just added one more endpoint to my documentation. It's info. I showed you how to access the application info. And watch this, and it already works. Because I didn't change the code. I want to do this view, the side by side. Here's my new document with my new snippets. And if I go here to the info, right? This is not right. That's not what it is. When I do the real build, that's what it'll show. But when I do this here, we're going to see version 0.0.5 because that's what's deployed in production. So my documentation works. Things are working. Things are good. Now we're going to build out a new version. We're going to deploy this new version that's going to connect to Zipkin. But I'm asking myself, like, is that enough? Do I want to stop here? Like, is this good enough? This is all that I had. This was my objective. When I started the stream, I wanted to get Zipkin deployed. That was the thing I was working on. We had some good conversations. I made a decision here. Pretend it's the way I'm going to go. But always remember, it's okay to interrupt me. Ask questions. I'm not on a schedule. I'm just thinking out loud. I'll make mistakes. Keep me honest. We talked about some stuff. And right now I'm wondering if this is all I want to do. It'd be nice to have some traces in here. So I'm thinking, or maybe we should just add the Redis part. Let's just do this. Let's take this and go. Let's take this to production and then just come back and let's just add the Redis part. So we have some data. That's cool. Let's do that. Because I don't know how to do the data part. I don't know how I'm going to do it and be visible and public about it. Because I got to come up with a way to deploy it, make my configs visible without making my secrets visible. So one more time, just for my ADHD, clean package. Make sure I can build. Go run all the tests. Make sure everything's passing. Green is good. Okay, I'm good. I'm confident. Now we're going to do this git add dot. And all that we did was we add config for Zipkin endpoint. That's it. And that's it. And the test. Git push. Now, cool thing is, I'm doing this git push, and again, this is all public. You can go and follow and play along, and you can run it and all the things. Not here, not here. Over here, the project that we just touched, right here, just updated just now, seconds ago, right now. The GitHub Actions are not going to fire because I've got my GitHub Actions to set only to fire when I give it a new version. So I can make changes and I can commit and I can keep my history, but when I'm ready to release it, I've got to do one more step. Git tag v0.0.6 is the next version. Git push origin v0.0.6. So now I'm at a tagged version. And now if I click this button, I'll see that, oh, that's cool. You're building this new version. But remember, I'm building, or maybe you don't know, I'm building this for both ARM64 and AMD64. So right now, what we just looked at was we're building a native image of this Spring Boot app. Ooh, this will be good. We're building a native image of this Spring Boot app for AMD64. But also, in this same repository, I've put the configs, and I'm repeating myself a lot because I don't know if you're here, you've been here the whole stream, or you're just dropping in. I've put the configs for Circle CI. Our friends over at Circle CI have been super awesome. And over here, I'm building an ARM64 native image. So these are happening. Hello, welcome, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. My name is Deshaun. I'm a Spring Developer Advocate. I don't believe that we met. Maybe I have seen that name. I don't have all the stuff figured so I can see who's been here and who hasn't. But look at this. Look at you. Like this right here, this makes me happy. I'm doing it. So while these things are building, like, you're right. Let's go over here. I must have You must have been on the stream before. Maybe I remember. But Spring.Academy is a great place to go and learn. Let's do it this way so you can kind of like see Spring.Academy. Instead of seeing my logged in one, I want everybody to see like, hey, here's Spring.Academy. And Hans over here recommending it. And I thank you because I recommend it. If you want to learn Spring, you want to be able to do these things. Then the thing is, if you're watching, I'm not thinking really hard about the Spring stuff. The stuff I'm thinking hard about tonight is the infrastructure, and I'm trying to automate infrastructure, which most developers aren't doing. Anyways, the Spring stuff is easy. The Spring stuff that we've done today has come automatically because Spring makes going to Kubernetes really easy. So this, I was surprised there are seniors with 10 years of Java experience who's not touched Spring. It's crazy. So I'd be really surprised if they hadn't touched Spring, because for a long time, Spring has kind of been the default way of configuring a lot of things. Even if you did nothing like with Spring Framework or Spring Boot or anything like that, for a lot of projects that we are taking to middleware, to WebLogics and WebSpheres, for a lot of those projects, we are still configuring applications using Spring, the inversion of control. So, but they might not be willing to say like, yeah, I know Spring, and I get it. But here, this is a really cool tool. Again, I'm not a shill. I'm a Spring developer advocate. This is my jam, but I get asked 5 times a day, how do I learn Spring? And this is the best place to start. I'll stop doing the commercial. I'll let Han do the commercial for me. Right? Like it's great. I'm doing it, right? So I'm learning. I'm not a Spring certified professional. I don't know I don't have all the answers. I would like to know more. I'm continuing to learn more. I'm trying to learn more. So I'm taking this course. This is the course that I'm working on personally. So when I say I recommend it, I'm also doing it. I'm practicing what I preach. So here we are. Right now, I've got a GitHub action that's building an AMD 64 image. I've got a Circle CI config that's building, these are native images, Graal VM images, because I deployed to Raspberry Pis and Nooks. So I'm building both ARM64 and AMD 64 images, and then I'm gluing them together in a manifest. But because I am doing this, because we're building this in the open, and it's open source and MIT license, take it and use it and do with it, like have fun. I put it out here so that you can copy it and you can go take it, take the bits, build your own. In fact, build your own, build it live, do it on a live stream, copy and paste, change the names, build it yourself and do it on live stream. I will come and watch. I built this out in the open. I gave you all the configs so that you can do the native images. And inside, I also showed you how to build the manifest so that you can glue those versions together. And what does that mean? That means that when I deploy this config, oh, I didn't update my config. When I deploy this config, which we'll do in a minute, I'm going to change this to 0.0.6 because that's the version that we're building right now. When I deploy this, if I deploy it to my ARM64 machine, it will pull down the ARM64 image. Let's go take a look at the one that we just did here. And you'll see the tags. And oh, look at this. The 0.6, the GitHub 0.0.6 version for x86-64 is already done. All right, but it's not latest. 2 days ago was 0.0.5. Right, this is 2 days ago. 0.0.5 has an AMD 64 version and an ARM 64 version. But when you ask for 0.0.5, if you are on AMD 64, you're going to get this image. Look at this checksum here, this digest value. They match. It's the exact same thing. 0.0.5 is made up of these 2 layers, which are right here. And I'm just showing you in the repository, I do that for you. So if you copy this repo, you can do the exact same thing. You can get these images. The pipelines are doing a Docker push, right? They're doing a Docker push to my repo. So I do have secrets inside of this org that are saying, hey, here's how you push to my Docker repo. As much of the stuff that I can make public, I'm making public. Sometimes I mess up and I put tokens out on the stream, but I'm getting better at that. And this is what I'm doing. I'm making these native images for both platforms so that I can deploy it to multiple platforms. So now my ARM64 native image is done. And now this GitHub action should be wrapping up. Oh, it's done. So now I've got a v0.0.6. Let's go back to our hub. And we'll see that now there's a v0.0.6 that just got done. And that matches the latest. So I could deploy the latest, but I'm going to deploy v0.0.6. I'm going to be specific. Right? Because if I just deploy latest, I don't have a log of when that's going. I deploy the latest. That's kind of for you, for public. So now, again, when I go back and look, I put in, this is prod, this is running. I go to actuator info. I'm going to see 0.0.5. That's the version that's running. I'm going to hit refresh a couple times. That's the version that's running. But now I'm going to do this. Again, I'm using Flux. And I have all these things in place. Get add dot, get status. You're going to see get status. Then I'm only going to change this one file. This is how I'm going to deploy the new version 2 production. And this new version, I'm trying, I believe, and I've not done this, I believe that by putting this environment endpoint in here, I believe that this is going to give me the connectivity between my application and the Zipkin that's deployed in that same Kubernetes cluster. At 6 with Zipkin env. Cool. That's going. Did I do that right? Yep. So now that should go. So now what we should see over here, if I hit escape a couple of times, I should see a new deployment coming. And with that new deployment, I should have connectivity to my OpenZipkin. So Han, thank you for recommending Spring Academy. I assume you're using it and you're enjoying it. It's fun. One thing that I did, here comes my new deployment. One thing that, again, I'm going to be deploying, or I'm going to be streaming here every day. I'm trying to do every day. Live streams, weekdays 8:30 to 10:30. I'm on all the places. Twitch, on Twitter, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kick, and maybe even Caffeine. I tried doing the 6-way stream and I had some issues, but I'm learning in public. On a Sunday night, I enjoy what I do. I had things on my mind. I wanted to make some changes. So yeah, I'm having fun. Here's my version 6 that's running. That version 5 is still running because it's 15 minutes. That one should shut down because the window was 15 minutes. So this one should disappear at some point. Look at that, connection refused, Zipkin. There's the span that it didn't have. I wonder where this spans. I want to see if I can see this real quick. Because I have to do this. It says spans were dropped due to exceptions. All subsequent errors will be logged at fine level. So it couldn't do the spans. So it had some percent of spans that it was capturing. I didn't reconfigure and said, oh, I can't paste those spans. I don't have a Zipkin. So this is the problem that I was trying to fix by having that open Zipkin deployed inside of my tenant. So let's back out here. I think I can kill that one, but we'll let it kill itself, which sounds harsh. But now I have this one. I'm curious why this one is still here. I feel like I need to I have some cleanup to do, because let's watch. When I do customizations, no. What did I want to look at? I wanted to look at workloads. Or no, it was services. I still got all of these services that are deployed. They're all scaled to 0, but they're all deployed. And I need to get those cleaned up. So I could go back and I can switch, and I can say, hey, switch back to version 5. So like if version 6 is broken, I have all the information for version 5. And I can switch back automatically. That's pretty cool. This is a feature of Knative serving. But right now, it looks like I have both versions deployed. I have both version 5 and version 6 deployed, but Knative has been given the instructions because of this. It says, hey, I want this version 6. And Knative knows, like, that's what I'm going to send traffic to, I hope. So let's hit this button. Let's hit this. Let's go to our actuator info. And we see that it's hitting version 6. Okay, that's good. That's what we want. Now let's go back here and let's go to the version 6. And let's look. I hit the 0. Now, do I have traces? I did something. I don't have traces. I don't think I'm calling out anywhere. So why would I expect traces? Because I don't really have anything in there. So let's fix that. I'm gonna hit this a few times. I'm gonna hit my docs a few times. I want to fix that docs endpoint, because right now if I go to docs /, it tries to download that index.html as a static. How do I fix that? Spring Boot static directory with index.html. All right, I know where to put it. Yeah. I don't need to do that. Yep, that's right. So I'm putting it into static. It's in static docs. I'm just go back to the docs. I hate looking at old answers. It's just, I shouldn't have to do that anymore. You shouldn't have to do that anymore. So let's do this static. Let's do a single HTML page so I can do this across. Source name public error. Static content. Static path pattern. All right, by default, Spring Boot serves static from static in the class path or from the root of serve. It uses the resource request handler from Spring MVC so that you can modify the behavior by adding your own WebMVC configurator and overriding add resource handlers in a standalone web application. The default servlet from the container is not enabled. It can be enabled using registered default servlet. The default servlet acts as a fallback, serving content from the root if Spring decides not to handle it. Most of the time, this doesn't happen unless you modify the default, because Spring can always handle requests through dispatcher. By default, resources are mapped on /**, but you can tune that with Spring static path pattern property. For instance, relocating all resources to resources can be achieved. You can also customize the static resource locations by replacing the default values of a list of directory locations. The root is automatically added as a location as well. In addition to the standard static resource locations, a special case is made for WebJars. By default, any resources with a path in WebJars are stored from jar files if they are packaged in the WebJar format. Do not use source main web app directory if your application is packaged as a jar. Spring Boot also supports the advanced resource handling features provided by Spring MVC, allowing use cases such as cache busting static resources or using version agnostic URLs for WebJars. Spring Boot supports both static and templated welcome pages. It first looks for an index.html file in the configured static content locations. If one is not found, it then looks for an index template. Well, that doesn't seem like it. Right? Because I've got index.html. Right? Yeah. Excuse me. Inside of docs, target class is static docs. I have an index.html. So what am I doing wrong? Oh, this is cool. So if I do this, I should be back up here. I still don't understand. This is what I'm interested in. Static and templated welcome page. It first looks for an index.html in the configured static content locations. So that's in the root. If one is not found, it then looks for an index template. So do I need to just change the root? Because I have the root right now is mapped to something else. Let's take a quick look. If I do that property, if I change this property, static path pattern, / resources ***. I just want this to be docs ***. If I go here and I change this to docs ***, and then I just run it. Does this work? Actually, let's do it this way. mnw Spring Boot run. And I'm doing this so I get all my info and I build everything. This should build all of my docs localhost 8080/docs. Nope. No static resource index.html. Is it this? I do docs. Docs. So what did this do? MVC Spring static path pattern. I want this. You know what? There's like a welcome. I know it. There's a welcome. Spring dot. Let me see. Dot well. Static resources. But how? So this is a problem that I'm trying to figure out is this. When I go to, let's change this back. Let's deploy all of our stuff. And this is the problem I'm trying to fix. I want my docs at /docs. I have a docs/index.html, and I expect that to get loaded automatically when I'm here. And I don't know why it's not. So this, the documentation here, where it says welcome page, and it might just be because it's in docs, and I might have already run into this and had this problem before. So the default servlet in a standalone web app, the default servlet from the container is not enabled. It can be enabled using the server.servlet.register default servlet property. The default servlet acts as a fallback, serving content from the root of the servlet context if Spring decides not to handle it. Most of the time this does not happen unless you modify the default MVC configuration. I don't know if I did that or not. You can also customize the static resource locations. Static locations. Spring Web Resources. Spring Web. Resources dot. Static locations. Docs. Let's try that. Let's see. And that might be it. Nope, it still doesn't want to pull in the index.html. Oh, but now it doesn't do anything, right? I have it in finish refused. Okay, that's fine. Spring Web Resource, static locations, class path, static docs. says, nope, I don't know what you're talking about. I have, wait, why don't I have, oh, what just happened here? Let's try that again. I have to do the package so that I build the actual static docs. And run all the tests, and then put those snippets into the static docs. There we go. So now I've got static docs in HTML. I'm saying, hey, just look in static. Still, it's not pulling in this, which I want. I know that I've ran into this before. But I don't remember what the fix was. So this only acts as a fallback for actual index routes defined by the application. The ordering is defined by the order of handler mapping beans, which is by default in the following: router function mapping, request mapping, welcome page handler mapping. As with other static resources, Spring Boot checks for a fav icon in the configured static content. If such a file is present, it is automatically used as a fav icon. Okay, that sounds like something I should have anyways, for fun. Spring Boot welcome page. I'm not sure the answer. I don't have all the answers. Right, I did it one time. Spring Boot welcome page. Yep, this is exactly what I'm looking for. If that's my name at the bottom of this, I'm going to flip. Okay, it's not. Really? Yep. Yep. Since you replace your static resources in static UI, you have to inform Spring Boot of this. Add resource location. Add resource handler. Add resource location. I think that this is what I did. I did something similar to this. You can do that. I don't think that'll work. It might. That might work. That might be what. It looks familiar, actually. But that's... So let's circle back. So this is what I've done in the past, right? If I go over to this other example, I put the docs at the root, and I'll bet you this is why I did it. And things I'm not in production right now. Like I can make these kind of changes. So let's stick with simplicity. Let's do this. I've got my stuff. Let's change. Let's change this. To listener. Or what's the good name for that endpoint? I'm just gonna put an API. So I'm just moving my stuff, and actually I can do that up here, right? Hello. So all of these endpoints are going to be instead at /API. So let's change our tests. This is good. Before each, here this is going to be /API. Right? Let me run this. And this should just echo back. Oh, so it takes the because it knows about the REST controller host port. Do I have to change anything else? The only other thing I have to do is change the where I deploy the files. So I do the resources. After I build my snippets, I take the generated docs and I move them here to docs. I'm just going to move them into static. Let's do this real quick. Let's take a look. Here. Oops. Here. And this will be it. I'm going to be done after I do this. W Spring Boot. Clean package Spring Boot run. We're going to fix the document endpoint. We fixed Zipkin. Everything's working. And now I expect that when I go to localhost 8080, I'm going to get my docs. Oh, not this one. Oh. What did I do wrong? This is supposed to be. Oops. I don't know what the label is there. I'm in Spring Boot, Servlet, Spring, MVC. Request mapping. Yeah, that. But can I do it inside of the one? We'll do that. API. Let's try this again. Control C. Sorry about that. Again. Start with layer test. For the Echo Hub Challenge, I think it's /API. Try it again. Fantastic. And this one is /API. Fantastic. The actuator health and actuator info are going to be at the same URL, and the docs are going to be at root. All right. We're getting there. But this is production. We're pushing it. We're making it live. We're going to do the things. I should do one of the next step experiments. All right, I got time until the family gets home. Done. API hub dot hub.mode. Okay. Okay, good. We're in good shape. So this is fixed. I moved my docs, I moved my stuff. So docs are now at root. Let's go back here. We're making some changes. Let's edit this. Zoink. Save. Yeah, we did this. Callback URL, we're changing. So let's go and unsubscribe. Let's go unsubscribe from where we're at. So this is what we've got. Like, we're getting content here. So we're going to take this call and we're going to go back. And from here, we are going to unsubscribe. Do it. Cool. So let's do our diagnostics. And it says last item delivered, state is verified, last subscribe request. No. Let's check this with a slash. Unsubscribed. Fantastic. But you know what else? This one. Unsubscribe. Right, and then this one, get info. Unsubscribe. Okay, we're in good shape. So now we're not subscribed to anything. But now we want to subscribe on the different URL, right? We want /API/ same video. Do this. We want to subscribe. Do it. Let's go look and see. Did it work? Subscriber diagnostics. /API. Get info. Unverified because my app's not running. Right. Tried to connect to Zipkin. Failed. Blah blah. Control C. Did we deploy version 6 yet? We did. And we saw both. But now I just changed the API. I changed the API to fix the docs, and we got to give it a new version. Get status, get add dot, get commit, move docs to root, move move and points to /API. Done. Let's see that all those tests work. Our documentation is going to work. Our documentation is going to build. We hit the push. Now we got to remember, we got to tag, get tags. We're at version 6. Sorry, get tag. We're at version 6. We want to get tag v0.0.7. Get push origin v0.0.7. Fantastic. So as I'm practicing to do more inside my IDE, when I do my test application, I want to do one more thing. When I do this, I want to run a Maven I might have to phone a friend for this. I guess I don't need to. We'll come back. While that's building, while my other versions, my native images are building, I'm going to, right, that's good. We moved it. We don't need that. We think that we're connected. This is good. I'm gonna have a new version here in a second. We changed this to the root. We learned that lesson before. So we're gonna keep on going. I did it here and I verified, so we should be good. We redirected our details to /API and it's unverified. We gotta do that again. So we can go back and we can unsubscribe. Unsubscribe. Do it. Cool. I wanted to kind of like automate that, put that into the application, but we'll see. So here we are. I want to take one more step. And let's go back to what the other thing that I was doing. And this is really what I wanted to hope to get done today. Let's add Redis. Let's add Redis. So that when we start up, we're going to have Redis backed. How am I going to deploy that? I don't know yet. But let's add Redis. So that when I get this data, I know what the data looks like. The data is going to look like this. I went and I did some research and I found this Roam tools. Atom XML Roam tools. Library for generating and parsing RSS and Atom feeds. Roam modules, generating and parsing for extensions. Internal utility classes. So I added this. If I want to parse a feed, I get this string. I get the feed.title. I can generate a feed. My data is going to look like this feed. I will get a feed. I don't have to do this. Let's just do this. let's see if we can do this. Let's see if we can here where I get this string. Let's see if I can import class XML reader. This box is dead. So let's pull in this XML reader, but not from a URL. From that string. Can I do that? File, input stream. Feed input. Build. What kind of document is this? Node. Okay, not that. I guess I get that, right? Because it doesn't know how big that is. What's the easy way to do this? Oh, where am I? XML, whoops, sorry, let me do this. XML reader. I just want an XML reader and I just want to give it a string. Input streams. I can do that, right? I think there's better. Binary input stream, Atom XML, get bytes. Easy peasy, right? Yep, I can handle that. Or let's do this. Feed exception. we're here, we've done this, and let's just grab, not that, let's go back to here, and we get the feed.title. But that's not really what I want. What I want is, yeah, that's fine. Feed.title. Just to make sure it's parsing. What does that look like? Let's just see what that looks like. So let's run this test. We're going to pass it in. We still expect to get okay, but we're going to see a little bit more logs. But when I run this test, not that one. When I run this test, the post should echo hug challenge, should return success. This post. Okay, and fantastic. So now we can see what that spring, there's the data, and then we'll see, we got the feed title, vicinity impl copyright equals null, but we see all of this info. That's cool stuff. Oh, it's got a bunch more info we don't need. Okay, it's got the links, supported feed types, blah, blah, blah. But the cool stuff that we care about is, nope. There should be like a video title, right? Entries 0, video title. Fantastic. So this is in our README, in our stuff, in the entry. It's always going to be entry 0 on these events, maybe. Because what if they send me multiple events? We'll see. We'll figure it out. But let's, for each entry, let's spit out some stuff. And let's do this. Let's then just turn around and throw it into a Redis database, right? I just want this entry. I just want this entry. And I'm just going to throw it into a Redis database. I don't think I need anything else. If I were to do this, where's the date? So this publish date, for this example, I could capture the publish and the update to capture timestamps. And I'm just thinking through this issue. I'm gonna get these events for these videos. We're gonna make some changes. We're gonna get updates. I'd like to keep track of those updates and do some interesting things with them. So let's make a I'm already thinking about 2 steps ahead and I don't have this done. How do I want to store this? How do I want to store this? I'm going to think out loud. I'm going to draw some pictures. Help me out. So the first time, like the first entry, is going to be when the published, sorry, where did my example go? When the published and updated are the exact same. Or there's no updated. Right? So there's a difference here between this and when I do an update. Like if I go and update a title, if I go and update the title, it's going to have a published that's not equal to update, right? So that means that modifications have been made, but here's the thing. The first time I come through, I'm not going to do anything because I created a video. We're doing a stream right now. I got a video ID. There's already a video ID out there, but I don't know what to update it with. I'm not going to do anything automatic. But what I should do is I should capture the original video title. Everything else is good, right? And why do I say that? I'm doing this. I want to capture the original video title, maybe the video ID. So I don't have to like get overly crazy here. I'm using Redis. Right, the author's not going to change. I might change it if I'm going to subscribe to multiple channels. But I could just, this ID, this entry ID is going to be the same thing as this value is always going to be the same as this. The channel ID is always going to be the same. The original title, because here's the picture. I don't know if I drew this picture. When we're done with the stream, I want this YouTube listener to say, hey, we're done. And that's the thing, I got the ID already. I wonder if I get an update when I'm ending the stream, and I can't show that on the stream, right? Because I'm clicking stop. So let's capture the event. Let's just throw the event. Let's throw the thing inside of Redis. And let's just do it this way. I'm going to get an entry. And if I just say entry, let's do this. Right here, I did the feed to string. I don't want that. I want to do this for entry. Send entry in feed dot get entries. For each one of those, I want to do info entry dot toString. So I'm gonna get rid of a lot of the fluff, maybe. I don't need this. I don't need this. That's not gonna change. That doesn't bother me. Let's just run this and let's see what we look like. Because I think what I want to do is I want to just take that entry. No, I don't want to see that one. If I continue to use this tool, maybe I just take the entry and just throw the entry in. I'm thinking, I'm noodling. How do I want to capture this? I'm trying to think 2 steps ahead. Here's what I'm going to do. I would like to capture the original title. I think that's it. Or I could capture all the events. If I do that, if I capture all the events by grabbing like the video ID and then a timestamp as the key, and then just leave all the XML as the body. All right, I'm thinking out loud here. I'm gonna open another example somewhere. We're gonna get done with this real quick. So then I just have stuff going into a database that we can do stuff with. Redis, data ingestion. I'm gonna do it the same way. So I'm gonna put this into another. Actually, this is all public, right? Like, I just don't have the muscle memory yet. I don't need runtime hints right now. Do I need a repository? I could do it that way. If I just did a store Redis repository, except it's not a store Redis, right? I can just do a CRUD repository for some Redis objects. That's the same. It's the same pattern. I'm back here. I'm doing it this way because I'm doing it fast. Oh, I think I hear my kids. All that I need is an interface. All I want is a string that's the ID and a string that is the entry. And the ID right, we are gonna hurry up and wrap up. I want this record. Is that, am I gonna get this? I kind of want to just do like a timestamp. So I don't really need this because I don't care. String ID. And then the actual entry. That's it. So,
Can I send some of the photos to you?
all right, I got an idea for what I'm gonna do for this event. We're just gonna capture it so I can keep these events and put them into some kind of repository. We're adding Redis, so we need to reindex. So this event repository, all I'm going to do is when I get an event, I'm going to give my controller, I'm going to give it an example. I'm going to give it inject an event repository. And I'm going to do that. Uh-oh, please hold. All right, so kind of lame, anticlimactic. I'm gonna noodle on this, but I need to go. My family's here. I'm gonna go bring all my kids, get them into bed, and this is where I'll pick up. I might spend a couple more minutes of this later night, but I also want to go to the gym, so it's late. So thanks for hanging out. I would love it if you would follow, subscribe, and do the things wherever you're at. But I will be back online 8:30 in the morning Central Time. And I'm going to continue to do these kinds of things. I am always, my goal is I'm going to code, I'm going to do things out in the open. I will take the things that we've done in the streams, and I'll start to build a couple of these projects and do the tutorial. I show you how to do the tutorial, and that's it. I got to go. See ya.